Hello friends. Welcome to the Fiction Quest. How are you all? So in this video, we will see what if Naruto Team 7 and the Straw Hat Pirates go on an adventure and get married with Nico Robin. But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video with your friends. Now, without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. The ocean's mild breeze flowed freely through the open sails of the Going Merry, as the ship's crew went about their leisurely habits. Monkey D. Luffy was relaxing on the sheephead bowsprit, looking out towards the massive blue ocean, sparkling under the late morning sun. Usopp, not far from Luffy, was concocting explosive mixtures for bullets to shoot with his slingshot. Unfortunately, the mixture made a small explosion that covered his dark face with black soot, which made him sneeze convulsively. He murmured thoughtfully, rubbing his nose, and got an idea. Pepper bullets. Achoo! He continued to perfect his newfound invention. Zoro was at the back of the boat taking a long nap. His loud snores were unnoticed by the crew. Sanji busied himself in the kitchen wondering what to do with the tangerines from Nami's orchard. With thoughts filled with Nami, Sanji decided he would make her his special tangerine sorbet, and one for Nico Robin too. Chopper grinded special chemicals in his mixing bowl, making more rumble balls for any upcoming battles to come. As for Nami and Robin, they were both sitting on leisure chairs, reading. Robin, with the Mystic Rainbow book, and Nami with her newspaper. All of them went about their ways, unknowing of the latest outburst that was about to come. Woo ho ho hoo! Whooped the captain of the Going Merry ship, bouncing excitedly on top of his favorite sitting place of the boat, and pointing at the long stream of land coming towards them. Oi, everybody, check it out, another island! Luffy shouted with glee to his crew. Baka! Shouted Nami, as she punched Luffy on the head. That is not an island. Ow, Nami, you don't have to be so mean, he said dejectedly, rubbing the sore bump on his head. She's right, said Nico Robin, coming beside them, and looking out towards the large mass of terrain. It is far too large to be an island, so it must be a country. By this time, Chopper and Sanji came out from below the deck to see what the commotion is all about. A country in the Grand Line, huh? Questioned Usopp, his hand rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Don't know what else to say about that. Well, it's about time we found a place to land, said Nami, ignoring Usopp's useless mumbling. We're really low on supplies, and I'm tired of eating tangerines every day. Nami-san. You're so beautiful when you want to be, interjected Sanji, his eyes lighting up with hearts with his arms flailing about. Quiet, Sanji. Now, let's take a closer look, she said. Nami took out a small brass telescope and peered through it. In a clear view, she saw a port, and from the looks of it, there was no sign of any activity, no boats, and no people. That's strange, she thought. All right everyone, let's dock. Meanwhile, at the port of the Hidden Water Village, 4 ninjas waited somewhat patiently for the target of their mission. The small pirate ship not so far off the coast, and was ready to land in the port anytime. Kakashi's team of his favorite ninjas hid themselves within the deserted harbor. Their mission was to protect the Hidden Water Village from the, according to Naruto, ill-fated pirates. 3 of the young Chunins hid together behind a number of crates and barrels left by the sailors after evacuating the area. Their plan, briefed by Kakashi himself, is to surprise the pirates with their powerful jutsu, while their sensei would hide comfortably nearby to catch up with his reading. This is a stupid plan, spat Naruto, pouting with his arms crossed. It's just not fair that we have to do all the work, while dumb Kaka-sensei reads that perverted book of his. Not far from them, a fit of giggling was heard from behind the bushes. Naruto fumed at those rustling bushes, knowing full well who was hiding within them. Naruto, chastised Sakura sharply. You have to keep quiet. Tsunade-sama trusted us only to take on this mission, and Kakashi-sensei knows that we're strong enough to take care of a bunch of lowly pirates, right Sasuke-kun? Sakura added with a blush, but all that she received from the Uchiha heir was his trademark, HMPF, but she gave a dreamy sigh either way. Naruto was still far from happy. What's wrong, Dobi? Are you afraid of a bunch of pirates, because sensei isn't here to save you? Sasuke taunted the already irritated blonde. You shut the hell up. Naruto exploded at the calm and collected Uchiha. Naruto! Yelled the aggravated Sakura, as she firmly planted her fist onto his head. Don't you dare to talk to Sasuke-kun like that, OWW, Sakura, Naruto groaned in pain. Don't you guys ever shut up? I swear you're both so annoying, scolded Sasuke, right before he went to peer out of their hiding place to see the progress of the pirate ship. They're close now, they just put up their sails, get ready, Sakuke whispered urgently to his team. All three took out their kunais, and simultaneously looked over the mass of crates to watch the ship drop anchor. The hustle and bustle going on inside the ship could be heard, but not a single person was in sight yet. Then there was a shuffle of one's footsteps nearing to the front of the sheepboat. A young man with a long nose emerged from the ship, scanning the area with his goggle-covered eyes. The three Chunins kept their curious eyes on the pirate, waiting for any sign of a threat. The long-nosed man smirked to himself, and without warning, pulled out a flag with his face painted on the worn-out fabric. I, Captain Usopp, claim this land as part of one of my many famous discoveries. I shall name it Usopptopia. The loud pirate had been shoved off the boat by someone behind him. He fell and landed on his nose in a heap of fishnets. God, Usopp, you could be so damn annoying, said a young orange-haired woman, who jumped off the boat with such grace. Wow, look at this place, she said, looking around the deserted harbor. I wonder why everybody left. Hey, look at town, called out another pirate with a straw hat, who sprang from the ship, and landed on a bunch of crates that were right above the young ninja's hiding place. He put his hand above his eyes looking for any sign of a restaurant. Where's the meat? Me want meat. There was a yawn heard from the ship. A man with green hair and 3 swords emerged into sight. Damn, you're all too noisy, complained the swordsman, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Hey, where are we anyway? Doesn't look like we're in a town. I agree, said another voice from the ship. I don't see any shops anywhere. The voice belonged to a tall blonde in the black suit. He lit his cigarette right before he jumped down to join the red-haired woman, the unconscious long nose, and the hyper guy with the straw hat. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke were quite surprised of this motley crew. They didn't look like any of the pirates they heard of in stories. What's with these guys? Naruto whispered to his team members. They look too stupid to be pirates. I know what you mean, agreed Sakura with a silent giggle. What's with the silly straw hat? SSHH, be quiet, warned Sasuke. Hey look, there's some kids here, startled. The trio looked up to be face to face with the smiling captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. Hi there, greeted Luffy from above. All three of them jumped out of their hiding places in surprise. Damn it, we're found out, said Sasuke as he quickly got into his battle stance. Naruto and Sakura did the same. Luffy became confused, and tipped his head to the side. What's this? You all want to fight? Luffy, quit playing with those dumb little kids. We have to find out what to do from here, called out Nami as she rounded up the rest of the crew for a meeting. It's all right, Nami, I think they want to fight me, shouted back Luffy happily, as he jumped from the mount of crates in front of the offended ninjas. Dumb little kids? Sakura seethed. Let me at him, I'm gonna kick all their asses, screamed out inner Sakura. Naruto was also enraged. I'll teach you not to underestimate me. I'm going to be Hokage one day, and I'm sending your sorry asses straight to the Navy. Shut the hell up. I've had enough of all your stupid drama. Sasuke spat at his team. Sakura frowned. But Sasuke-kun, began Sakura, and you, said Sasuke threateningly, ignoring Sakura, as he glared at the bemused Straw Hat Pirate. You're going down. Kaden Ryuuka no Jutsu. A blast of fire emitted from the dark-haired boy's mouth, in which the cargo, the ship, and Luffy were caught on fire. Ah! It burns! Screamed Luffy as he ran frantically around the harbor in search of any source of water nearby, but unfortunately the only source of water was in the ocean. So Luffy jumped right in. Ah! Fire! Somebody help me! Cried the helpless blue-nosed deer in the burning ship. Oh no! Chopper! Luffy! Screamed Nami in panic. I'll help Luffy, Zoro. You deal with the fire, called Sanji, as he took off his suit coat, and rushed off to save the drowning captain. I'm on it, said Zoro. He unsheathed all 3 of his swords. Tatsumaki. The strength of the Zoro's whirlwind technique extinguished the fire instantly, as well as it slashed the abandoned cargo around them into pieces, leaving no place for the young ninjas to hide. Sasuke, Sakura and Naruto's jaws dropped in awe at such amazing power. How did he do that? They all said in unison. After the fire had gone, Sanji emerged from the water with Luffy in tow as they both gasped for air. "Hey Luffy, you okay?" breathed Sanji. "Whoa. Cough. That, cough, hack. That was a neat trick, cough." Luffy coughed out, sputtering water from his mouth. "Hey you. Can you do that again?" With that said, Luffy received multiple hits and a kick from his crew. "Don't encourage them, Baka. Ooh." Naruto took this minor distraction to step in. "So you like tricks, huh?" mocked Naruto with a smirk while cracking his knuckles. "Well then, eat this." Naruto placed his hands together to form the tiger seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. With multiple puffs of smoke, a dozen Narutos appeared, surrounding the Straw Hat Pirates. "Ooh, so cool," Luffy yelled out. He was so amazed that his eyes were bugging out of his head. All the Narutos smirked. "Hey, I know," said Naruto, letting his ego get in the way of the task at hand. "Naruto, quit fooling around and get busy," yelled out Sakura, who had her kunai out again. "Don't worry Sakura-chan. These guys are a piece of cake," said Naruto. "I wouldn't count on that, Dobi. That swordsman looks pretty tough," warned Sasuke. All the Narutos fumed. "I know that. Quit talking like you know everything," they boomed at cool Uchiha. Nami took this time to drag Usopp to hide back in the ship. "All right. You three down there, I'll watch the ship, while you take care of those kids." "Easy for you to say," shouted Zoro angrily. "Hi, Nami-san," called out Sanji, his voice singing with the sound of love. "I'm hungry," said Luffy, rubbing his growling stomach with a pained look. Sanji, Luffy, and Zoro all stood right in the middle of all the annoying blonde doppelgangers. Sanji lit up a new cigarette. "HMPH, I guess these kids mean business," he said, letting the smoke come out of his nostrils. "Can we have meat after this?" asked Luffy hopefully. "Let's do this quickly then," said Zoro as he tied his dark green bandana over his head, as they readied themselves for what seemed to be an interesting battle. "Let's do this quickly then," said Zoro as he tied his dark green bandana over his green hair, and readied himself for battle. "Yosh!" yelled out Naruto. "All right everybody, go." With no time to spare, all the shadow doppelgangers rushed towards them with clenched fists ready to hit. "Gomu Gomu Goo!" cried Luffy, rapidly punching out all the Narutos into puffs of smoke. "What the?" thought Sasuke, bewildered at the Straw Hat guy's rapid punching speed. "How is he doing that?" he asked. "That's so strange, it's like he can detach his own bones," said Sakura, who had the same expression as Sasuke. "Is that even a jutsu?" At the same time, Sanji got into a handstand and propelled his legs like a helicopter, kicking in the faces and stomachs of each clone. "Oni Kiri!" Zoro made a wicked slash, cutting through the last of the shadow clones. The real Naruto got caught in one of Luffy's punches and collapsed from exhaustion. "That was too easy," smirked Sanji, as he exhaled another swirl of smoke. But the small victory was short-lived when Sanji received a strong kick to the face. The cigarette that was in his mouth flew off, as he was sent soaring across the other end of the harbor. "Don't speak too soon, long legs," said an arrogant voice that belonged to none other than Uchiha Sasuke. "You still have me to deal with. Yay! Get him, Sasuke-kun," cheered Sakura from the other end of the harbor. "HMPH, show off," thought Naruto bitterly, as he got up after all those lethal blows he received from the pirates. "I still got some fight in me," said Naruto as he steadied himself to stand properly. "Hey, you with the stupid hat, I challenge you one-on-one? Can you take it?" "Of course I can," screamed Luffy excitedly, now pumped with energy. "Show me what you got." Sakura watched helplessly as she saw her teammates choose their opponents, which left her with, "Hey, wait a minute," thought Sakura with uneasiness. "That means, I have to fight the swordsman?" Sakura warily glanced at the tall green swordsman as he caught her eye. His dark eyes were strong and resolute as stared down at her. The look in his eyes told her that he wasn't going to go easy on her at all. "This is it, This is a real battle, and Sakura had no help this time from Naruto or Sasuke. She cursed Tsunade-sensei for not teaching her how to fight yet. She was still an intermediate medic nin. Her eyes widened in fear as the swordsman came towards her. I don't know who you guys are, but that scaredy cat act you're pulling won't work on me. I know you got some hidden power in you, like your friends. But I'm not going to take any chances to find out what they are, said the swordsman warily. The white sword gleamed dangerously in his mouth, as did the other two swords in his hands. Sakura quickly went in defense mode, with a kunai in front. Don't come any closer, she called out, trying to sound brave, but the swordsman didn't listen. Sasuke and Sanji stood their ground across from each other. Sanji stared down at Sasuke with his hands in his pockets, and a newly lit cigarette in his mouth. Sasuke was already in fighting stance, ready to start. Let's go, yelled the dark-haired boy as he charged towards the tall cook. All right then, punk, replied Sanji coolly. Just as Sasuke got close enough, Sanji lunged at him with a straightforward kick. Sasuke easily dodged it and threw a punch at Sanji's face, which he managed to block in time with his other leg, as he shoved Sasuke back with the powerful force of his foot. So, a close combat type, huh? I got to keep my distance from those legs of his, Sasuke strategized. He began to form the familiar hand seals. Kaden Ryuka no Jutsu. Sasuke let out another fireball at Sanji. Oh crap, thought Sanji as he bounded away from the oncoming flames. How the hell is he doing that? He managed to get away just in time, for the fire nearly singed his suit. But it looked like the dark-haired boy was about to do it again. Sanji observed as the boy was making strange movements with his hands. It's gotta be that weird hand thing he's doing. He had to let Luffy and Zoro know, so they can defeat them quickly. And after that, they can explore more of this country, feed Luffy, and he can spend some more time with the beautiful Nami. Hey you guys, don't let them use Thier. But Sanji's warning was cut short when another fireball was coming toward him. Damn it, not again. He ran quickly away from it, as he was trying to think of another plan to defeat that kid, and to warn his comrades. Naruto was already having a hard time with Luffy. All his strange attacks were so strong, that the only thing Naruto could do was dodge until he could find a weak point. Gomu Gomu Gu, yelled out Luffy, as he swung his fist behind him letting it stretch out, and quickly letting it come down at Naruto with immense speed. Naruto leapt out of the way just in time so that the elastic blow hit a bunch of crates behind him instead, shattering them into pieces. What the hell are you? Screamed Naruto, finally taking notice of Luffy's strange ability when Luffy's arm reattached itself with a whipping snap. I'm a rubber man. My body is completely made out of rubber, said Luffy with a proud grin. Our rubber? Stuttered the puzzled Naruto. But how? Less talking, more fighting. I'm really hungry. And with that, Luffy stretched out both his arms behind him, aiming to hit Naruto with a double rubber fist. Now stand still, ordered Luffy. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Another puff of smoke, and Luffy was surrounded by another bunch of Narutos. Hooah! All you guys are really interesting, exclaimed Luffy wildly, with his arms still stretching out. Everyone, Naruto called out to all his shadow clones. Dog peel. Sakura stood her ground while the swordsman came toward her, her eyes still on his movement. What am I going to do? She thought worriedly. Oh please, somebody help me. Then in an instant, the swordsman charged towards her in great speed, with two of his swords aiming at her like bullhorns. Yushibari, he yelled. Sakura readied herself for the blow, even though she wasn't ready at all. As Zoro was about to impale the young girl, someone intervened. What the? Zoro's eyes widened in surprise, as he made impact to whoever it was in front of him. He thought he hit someone, only to find out that he hit something instead. He hurriedly pulled himself to a stop, only to face an impaled tree log. Zoro became confused. That girl was just in front of him just a second ago. Are you all right, Sakura? A different voice had entered the battlefield. Zoro whirled around behind him to find the owner of the voice, and there he spotted a man with silver hair and a mask, crouched in front of the scared pink-haired girl. Hey! Zoro called out, pointing his right-hand sword threateningly at the masked man. Who the hell are you? She's my opponent. The man got up from crouching position with his hands in his pockets, and turned to glare at Zoro with his one visible eye. "I am Hitaki Kakashi, and no she is not," he said, his voice stern yet casual. "But if you really want to fight someone, then your opponent is me." It didn't take long for Zoro to consider the change. He seemed happier to get a stronger-looking adversary. "Hey, fine with me," he said, and set himself in fighting stance. Kakashi turned to the trembling Kunoichi, giving her a reassuring look though his eye. "It's all right, Sakura-chan. Don't feel bad, you will get strong in time," he said cheerfully. "Now you should go help the boys. I think Naruto could use some of that healing jutsu." Sakura looked up and gave her sensei an appreciative nod, and made a quick dash to where Naruto and Sasuke were fighting. Kakashi turned back to the man with the 3 swords. "Now, since you know my name, I think it would be proper if I asked for yours," said Kakashi, as he reached for something inside his shuriken pouch. Zoro kept a wary eye on Kakashi's rummaging hand as he replied. "I am Roronoa Zoro, and my goal is to become an invincible swordsman. Is that a book?" Kakashi flipped a few pages from the flashy orange paperback, before looking back up at the startled swordsman. "I'm sorry, you were saying something?" Zoro nearly fell over with shock, then became very incensed. "All right, that's it, I've had enough of you." Zoro charged at Kakashi, both swords held up as he was just about to strike. Vinta fleur. Suddenly, 20 arms sprang from the ground and from the torso of most of the fighters. 4 of the hands grabbed Zoro's legs and arms, stopping him at mid-attack, and he was face to face with the masked man. 2 arms held on firmly to the Kakashi's legs, but he remained unperturbed of any changes of the situation ever since he took out his infamous Make-Out Paradise book. Zoro managed to get a closer look at the title, as he was already close enough to hug his opponent. Luffy had 6 arms over him as he was desperately putting up a fight, but failed miserably when 2 of the 6 arms moved from the ground and onto his sides and tickled him mercilessly that he was laughing like a madman. Naruto and Sasuke were both stunned out of their wits to find 4 arms holding onto their arms and legs. "What the hell is this?" shouted Naruto flabbergasted, as he was trying to wriggle himself free. Sasuke's face was full of shock at the sight of a different pair of arms sticking right out of his body. "Is this some kind of jutsu?" he asked. Sakura came running towards them, but stopped short in fright at the sight of their condition. What is that?" she squealed in horror. "It's Robin-san's special ability," answered Sanji with an affectionate sigh. His legs were held down by a pair of arms too. "Special ability. Robin-san." Sanji pointed towards their ship. All 3 of the shocked Chunins looked to see where he was pointing. A tall dark woman with azure eyes was standing on the sheephead bowsprit with her arms crossed over her chest. "Nico Robin!" shouted Zoro angrily. "What the hell is the meaning of this?" Kakashi gave Zoro an annoyed look. "Must you be so loud?" he asked. "I'm trying to read here." Zoro was so pissed off with his enemy. If it wasn't for Robin's interference, he would have slashed that book with his swords more severely than Kakashi. "Nice job, Robin-san," said the young woman with orange hair. "Anytime, Nami," said Robin just as she jumped off the bowsprit. Nami did the same, as well as Chopper and Usopp, who seemed to have recovered from his fall earlier, but his long nose was left askew. Sakura stared at the little blue-nosed reindeer with such curiosity. Chopper noticed this at once, and quickly rushed to his behind Usopp's leg with a squeak. "Hey Chopper, what's the matter?" inquired Usopp looking down at his furry comrade. "Shut up, don't look at me," whispered Chopper insistently. Nami walked up to the young pink-haired girl beside Sanji. Her brown eyes were stern and unyielding as she looked down at her. "Now, would you like to tell me why you were fighting us?" interrogated Nami. "That's what I'd like to know," piped in Sanji, obviously trying to impress Nami. "Yeah," interjected Usopp. "I mean, don't you kids have anything better to do than fighting with powerfully, ferocious, handsome and white pirates like us?" "Oh. Hey, I'm the one asking the questions here," scolded Nami, after banging Usopp on the head, leaving him with a hideous red bump. "It's not like we had a choice," yelled Naruto, still struggling with Robin's special ability. "You know," began Robin softly to Naruto, as she walked towards the resisting blonde. She lowered herself to meet at his eye level. "The more you keep fighting like that, the more I'm tempted to kill you." Naruto's eyes widened with alarm, and immediately stopped moving. he didn't feel so big anymore. But he's right, said Sakura. We didn't come here willingly. We were sent here on a mission by Hokage-sama. A mission, huh? Said Nami, rubbing her chin intently. What's a Hokage? Asked Usopp. Is that some kind of monster? Sakura chuckled. She would be, if you called her that. She laughed at the thought of a monstrous-looking Tsunade with big booby-crushing powers. Ah, your laughter is like music to my ears, cried out Sanji with love in his eyes as he bent on his knees in front of Sakura, despite lack of movement of his legs with Robin's arms holding him down. Sakura's face turned into a bright shade of red. Oh, thank you, she said uncertainly. She gave a quick glance at Sasuke, hoping that he would be jealous. Unfortunately for her, he looked like he didn't even care. He was glaring intently at Nico Robin. Beautiful flower of my heart, may I have your name? Sanji delicately took Sakura's hand and was about to kiss it, until Nami punched him aside. Will you quit it? Fumed Nami. Ah, Nami-san is so beautiful when she's jealous, said Sanji in a daze of hearts. I'm not jealous. I just want to know what's going on here. Help, pirates. Pirates are attacking the village. A voice of a young man, crying out in a panic. Everyone turned to see him running towards them. Luffy stopped laughing, and even Kakashi looked up from his book. The man was covered in scratches and bruises, which meant that he fled after a harsh beating. Once he reached the mixed group, he collapsed on his knees, his breathing ragged. Pirates. North Port, please, help. He collapsed from exhaustion. Kakashi sighed and put his book back in his pouch. It seems we were mistaken, he said calmly, looking over the tired civilian. Robin-san, was it? Kakashi looked at the direction of the dark-haired woman. Do you mind letting us go? He asked. We have work to do. It seems we were mistaken, he said calmly, looking over the tired civilian. Robin-san, was it? Kakashi looked at the direction of the dark-haired woman. Would you mind letting us go? He asked. We have work to do. Nico Robin gave Kakashi a small smile, as she acted to his request. Return, she uttered the command. All the arms had vanished, and everyone could move again. Zoro reluctantly relaxed his arms, then put each of his 3 swords into their own scabbard. Thank you, obliged Kakashi. She returned his thanks with an appreciative nod. You're welcome, Master Ninja, she said with a wave of farewell. Kakashi turned back to his former opponent, smiled and patted his shoulder. Sorry for the inconvenience, he said cheerfully. Zoro grunted and pushed his hand off. Don't think you're getting off that easy, growled Zoro. This fight is still going to happen later on, whether you like it or not. Kakashi's eye widened with surprise. This was perhaps the first time a fighter with non-ninja skills had ever actually challenged him. He smirked behind his mask. Such a strong, willful young man, he mused. Well then, he said, with the hint of cheeriness still in his voice, which irked Zoro even more. I'll hold you on to that. Then Kakashi turned to his students. They were all lined up and ready for his command. All right, he began to his team. Let's go. Yash, yelled an ecstatic Naruto. Within seconds, the green, red, orange, and blue blurs vanished instantly. Zoro's eyes widened in astonishment, for their speed was incredible compared to his own. Goodbye, my pretty little pink rosebud, cried out Sanji, broken-hearted with tears of sadness streaming down his eyes. Nami gave a relieved sigh. She was happy that all that was over with. Okay people, she called out, feeling in command again. Now let's gather around and decide what to do from here. Aye aye, shouted the Straw Hat crew. Most of the crew was present to listen to Nami's announcements, but she noticed that one member of the crew was missing. Hey, where's Luffy? Asked Nami, feeling slightly uneasy. The Straw Hat Pirates looked around within their group, and shrugged hopelessly. Wait, there he is, shouted Choppa, pointing at the direction at where Luffy stood. Luffy was standing over the unconscious beaten man that cried for help earlier. His usual vibrant wide eyes were darkened by a shadow given off by his very own hat, giving a dramatic effect to his seriousness. Oh no, said Zoro with a smirk, knowing what was going to happen next. He's doing that look again. Luffy ignored his crew and started to head north. Nami was unconvinced. She went up to Luffy to stop him in his tracks. She put her hand out in front of him, motioning him to a halt. Where do you think you're going?" she questioned, her voice domineering. Luffy stopped in front of Nami, but didn't look at her. His eyes were still shadowed. "I'm going to help those people," he said simply, and walked right past her. Nami fumed. Nobody ignored her like that. She rushed up in front of Luffy again. "Oh, no you're not," she commanded with a fixed stare at Luffy, but he ignored her again and continued on north. "It's no use, Nami-san," called out Sanji. "Once the captain has made his decision, you cannot stop him." Nami glared at Sanji defiantly, and was about to retort, until she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see that it was Luffy, his eyes still with the same look. "I'll pay you back double," he said, and continued on his way to Northport. Nami paused as if in thought, then she turned to look at her inactive crew. "Well?" she asked them, as if it was obvious that they should know what to do next. The Straw Hat Pirates looked at each other confused. "Well what?" asked Usopp perplexed. Nami became angry again. "Well what the hell are you waiting for? We have a village to save. You heard the captain. Move it. Move it. Move it," she barked in an orderly manner. The men of the crew jumped at Nami's commanding fury, that they all rushed into each other, knocking into one another, tripping over each other's legs until eventually catching up with their captain. Nami sighed and shook her head in dismay. "God, they're hopeless," she muttered. Master Navigator called Nico Robin, who was waving at her from the going merry-go. "I will stay here and watch the ship while you're away." "Hi, Robin-san," Nami called back, and she ran to catch up with the others. The north port of the Hidden Water Village had been in chaos. Sailors and fishermen were being beaten, cargo was being taken, nearby homes were being looted and burned, as well as a few scattered, dead, within the area. More than 100 pirates, wearing potato sacks over their heads, were having a grand time as they spread bedlam all over the port. Amongst these masked gang of sea thieves, was our very own Team 7 fighting within the masses. Once they had arrived, Kakashi, Naruto and Sasuke immediately began defending the port with all they had, while Sakura tried her best to evacuate the civilians to a safer area in the port, and tend to their injuries. They had been there for almost more than a half hour, and they haven't even made a dent on the number of bandits around the area. Kakashi figured there was something strange about the numbers against them. The fact that the morale of these pirates wasn't at all weakened since a half hour ago, was highly suspicious. They were fairly easy to knock out, but it seemed that every time he would eliminate any of the thieves, he would always feel that he was being attacked by the same ones. Another strange giveaway was that they all kept saying the same thing as they attacked. "Fire, loot, kill. Fire, loot, kill. Fire, loot, kill." It was like the only 3 words they know in their language. He took a quick look to see how his students were progressing. Naruto was starting to become weary as he fought continuously. He noticed this, because the production of his shadow clones decreased every time he conjured up a new batch. Sasuke was getting exhausted too, but he didn't seem to show it. He had been using the same fireball jutsu for a while now, but then he went back to taijutsu to save the little chakra he had left. Sakura was with the workers, healing their injuries in a safe spot behind a stack of fishing boats where they cannot be seen. But Kakashi knew where they were, because he could sense her chakra from there. The fight went on endlessly as Naruto began to feel the fatigue wash over him, for he was almost near his limit. "There's too many," he panted. More of the pirates were coming his way, but he managed to put them out with his flawless taijutsu skill, but all the fighting was eating his chakra, and it got harder and harder to keep going. "What are we gonna do?" he thought weakly, as he collapsed onto his back. "Will I ever have ramen with Iruka-sensei after this?" He thought weakly, as he collapsed onto his back. "Gobu Gobu you go." As if on cue, Luffy projected himself as a human slingshot, and wiped out a whole line of the potato sack-headed pirates, driving them into the ocean. After the attack, Luffy sprang back into his normal form, and gave an encouraging wink to the astounded blonde Shunin. "Holy crap! Where the hell did you come from?" he shouted, pointing a shaky finger at Luffy. "I flew," said Luffy cheerfully. "No way! You can fly too?" Naruto shouted excitedly. This person was more amazing than he thought. "No, I can't." Naruto became confused. "But wait, didn't you just say? Fire, loot, kill." Naruto's question was interrupted when another group of potato sack-headed pirates came charging towards them with swords above their heads. Hornpoint. All of a sudden, a giant reindeer with humongous antlers charged into the group, sending them flying into the giant pirate ship they came on. Naruto jumped up, even more amazed than ever at the sight of that monstrosity. "Wow! Good job, Choppa!" Luffy called out. Sasuke got distracted when he caught sight of Choppa's ability. "What is that thing?" he thought. "Hey kid," said a voice from behind him. Sasuke turned to see who the owner of the voice was. A tall man with green hair stood beside him, with all three swords out. Sasuke thought he looked ridiculous with that sword in his mouth. "You should know to keep your guard up in a situation like this," he advised. Sasuke looked annoyed. "TCH. You think I didn't know that?" said Sasuke coldly. "Heads up." At the same time, Zoro and Sasuke caught the pirate's anticipated attack with both kunai and sword, and easily pushed him off. "You see? I know," growled Sasuke. Sakura went to and fro to each of the injured persons, until she heard something that struck fear among them. Fire, loot, kill. The enemy had found them. Sakura saw it coming towards their refuge. She went out of the hiding place and held her kunai in front of her. "Stay where you are," she warned. "Fire, loot, kill." The covered pirate brandished his weapon and ran towards her. Cheek shoot. The man in the suit from before had aimed a flying kick right on the pirate's cheek. The impact was so strong that the potato sack on his head flew right off. That's when they saw that the pirate had no face. All he had was a blank area of flesh, and no ears or hair. Sakura gasped when she saw it, and Sanji came to her rescue. "My flower," he proclaimed happily, as he was on his knees again with his arms outstretched. "Do not fret, my little cherry blossom, for I will protect you." Sakura became angry, for she did not like to be looked upon as weak or frail. So she punched him in the face, making him fall sideways to the ground. "I don't need protecting," she barked at the dazed blonde man. As she turned to go back to where she left the injured workers, she panicked when she saw more of those faceless pirates about to attack them behind the fish boats. She quickly went back to Sanji, who was already up and rubbing his sore cheek affectionately. She grabbed his arm and dragged him with her back to the fish boats. Sanji looked at her, bewildered and dreamy. "Why, my flower? I thought you didn't need protection," he said fondly. "I don't," she spat as she kept on running, "but my patients do." While the Team 7 and the Straw Hats fought together against the enemy, the captain of the potato sack pirates looked on with horror from the safe confines of his ship. The number of his henchmen were falling drastically ever since those wanted pirates joined the fray. His frightened eyes turned back to the wanted posters in his hands of Zoro and Luffy, as he nervously rubbed his shiny bald head. "Why?" thought the anxious captain. "Why here? Of all the places, why did they have to come here?" thought the anxious captain. He peered through the small window again to see something that he couldn't believe. The dark-haired boy that was blowing fire everywhere on his henchmen had done it once more. Only this time, the wanted swordsman had combined his powerful slash attack along with the boy's fire technique, leaving no one on the port, except the captain and his boat. "Victory!" yelled Naruto, jumping up and down enthusiastically. "Yahoo!" Luffy cried out, as ecstatic as Naruto, and they both did a little victory dance. "Well done, everyone," cheered Nami from behind a bush. "Nami Swan. Your praises make my heart scream," cried out Sanji, his cigarette blowing off pink hearts instead of smoke. "I agree with Nami," said Usopp, emerging from the fishboats all bandaged up. "In case you didn't know, Usopp was scared to fight, so he played dead, and Sakura assumed he was an injured sailor, and took care of his wounds. This battle is truly one of the best ones I've fought in." "You two were hiding this whole time?" shouted Zoro irately to Nami and Usopp. "Don't exaggerate, Zoro," said Nami, dismissing his accusation with a wave. Sasuke had dropped to his knees panting. Kakashi walked up beside him, book in hand. "Nice teamwork, Sasuke," he said casually. "Sasuke-kun," Sakura called out, running to him. "You're wounded." "It's just a few scratches," he said, trying to get up, but he failed. Sakura rushed beside him. "Nonsense. Those scratches could be lethal. I don't want you to get any scars." "Oi, Sakura-chan. I have scratches too," said Naruto, pointing at the small scratches on his face with a smile. Sakura gave him a sour look. "You're fine," she said simply, before attending to Sasuke's wounds. Naruto pouted as he watched. "Sasuke always gets the attention," he mumbled. However, his bitterness ended when he saw a little deer-like creature staring at him intently. His little blue nose twitched. "Meh, what's with you?" he asked, giving it an annoyed look. "Ah!" The miniature reindeer screamed, waving his little arms in a panic. Naruto flinched at his sudden outburst. "This poor boy is hurt. Somebody get a doctor, quick." "But Choppa," inquired Luffy. "You are a doctor." Choppa calmed and looked at Luffy confused, and then it dawned on him. "Oh, yeah." Ignoring all the hubbub, Kakashi had his curious eye looking at the empty pirate ship. "You notice it too?" asked Zoro. His eyes were also fixed onto the boat. "Won't hurt to check it out," said Kakashi as he put his book away. They both walked towards the boat. The man hiding inside the ship made a frightened yelp as he quickly backed away from the window. They were coming for him. "Oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 no," he thought in a panic. "What am I gonna do now? Gotta think fast." He thought in a panic. The terrified captain looked around his quarters for something that might help him get out of this situation. After about a minute, he spotted another empty potato sack and a can of white paint. He may be like them in Baki the Clown and Alvida-sama, but he was such a big coward, and he really didn't want to face the wrath of Straw Hat Pirates after what happened to those two. "I surrender," he cried out, waving the white potato sack out the window. "Please, I give up. Don't hurt me." Kakashi and Zoro stopped in their tracks and looked curiously at the white flag. The rest of the Straw Hat Pirates and Team 7 looked up as well. "Who are you?" called out Zoro, with his hand on the hilt of his sword. "Show yourself." Zoro took out his sword. The sound of unsheathing metal seemed to have frightened the pirate even more, when they heard something squeal in terror and a shuffle of hurried footsteps. The door opened and a man with the same average body size of his henchman stepped outside with the flag clutched in his right hand. He put both his arms up for surrender. Kakashi stepped forward. "Are you the captain?" he asked. "I," said the man with wary eyes. "Captain, navigator, helmsman, cook, and henchman. I am all of those, sir." Everyone in the group looked at each other in confusion. "What do you mean by that?" interrogated Zoro, as he sheathed his sword back in its scabbard. "What I mean is," the captain paused, "that I am the only person in my crew." The baffled looks remained. Naruto started picking out wax in his ear. Luffy scratched his head. Zoro became irritated. "If you're the only person in your crew, then how did you wait a minute? You ate the demon fruit, didn't you?" Zoro pointed at him with an accusing finger. The Straw Hats pirate gasped in surprise, but the ninjas were still surrounded by question marks. "Demon fruit?" muttered the confused ninjas in unison. The bald captain sighed. "Yes, I ate the clone fruit." "Done. Done. Done. What's your name?" asked Luffy innocently. "Mark Wahlberg," quickly replied the captain. Everyone glared at him. He got the point, and panicked again. "Okay, I lied." Kakashi sighed and shook his head in disappointment. "Naruto, Sasuke," he called. "Arrest this lying, no-name, unpopular scum of a pirate. Our work here is done." After they turned in the potato sack captain to the authorities, the Straw Hat Pirates caught up with Team 7 at the center of the Naruto Bridge, and Nami begged them to take them to Thier Village, because the Hidden Water Village was such a poor country that they lacked the resources they needed for supplies. Kakashi thought somewhat hard about this, shrugged his shoulders, and agreed to help them. "Kakashi-sensei," scolded Sakura sharply, "what do you think you're doing?" Kakashi looked calmly to his fuming student. "Huh? They are pirates," she yelled. "What will Tsunade-sama think? Have you lost your moral judgment as a shinobi?" Kakashi rubbed his chin, pondered at what she said, and then it dawned on him. "Why, Sakura, you are absolutely right," he said. Sakura became relieved that he finally came to his senses. "We haven't properly introduced ourselves yet." The Chunin's Team 7 jaws dropped in disbelief. "He is such an idiot," mumbled Sasuke seethingly. Kakashi walked up to the Straw Hat Pirates and began the introductions. As only one of you know, I am Hitaki Kakashi, the instructor of Team 7, he said as he gestured towards the team. And these are my subordinates, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto gave an ecstatic little wave to the Straw Hats. Hi. Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke greeted them with his trademark harumph. A little arrogant, isn't he? Usopp whispered distastefully to Zoro's ear. And Haruno Sakura. Sakura Swan. Sanji cried out, as he leapt towards her. He fell to his knees and took her by the hand. Such a lovely name for such a lovely girl, it suits you so perfectly. Sanji bent down to kiss her hand, but Sakura quickly pulled it away before he did. Kakashi and the others each had a bead of sweat fall from their brow. And you are? Asked Kakashi flatly. I'm Sanji, chef extraordinaire of the Going Merry, he said with a graceful bow. Naruto gasped with excitement. You're a cook? Asked Naruto eagerly. Can you make ramen? I can cook anything, said Sanji proudly. Naruto hooted, and bounced up and down on the balls of his feet with a big grin on his face. Calm down, Naruto, said Sakura annoyed, before she turned her attention to the little blue-nosed reindeer. What about you little guy? What's your name? She said with a sweet voice, as she bent down to his level. The furry brown creature's eyes widened in surprise and he quickly hid himself beside Nami's leg. Are you talking to Emmy? He stuttered. Sakura looked concerned with his strange behavior. Oh Choppa, don't be so shy, said Nami pleasantly as she patted his pink top hat. Don't worry, he's like this all the time. He's our doctor, by the way, said Nami. Sakura blinked at the pleasant information. She looked back down at Choppa, who was still shocked by the attention he was getting from her. A doctor, really? She asked him astounded. That's amazing. I'm one too. Well, sort of. Sakura Swan, crooned Sanji again. You must help me cure this pain I have in my heart. It always stops when I'm near you. Bang. Cut it out Sanji, shouted Nami frustratedly. Sanji laid in a heap on the ground, an excessive bump pulsating on his comely blonde hair. Ah, Nami Swan, he muttered in his love-filled stupor. Sakura sighed with relief. He's worse than Lee-kun, she thought. Is Sanji-san always like this? She asked the orange-haired girl, while keeping a wary eye on the dazed chef. Oh yeah, all the time, said Nami casually. I'm Nami, the navigator, she added holding out her hand. Sakura gladly took it. Nice to meet you, Nami-san. Then Sakura turned to greet the next pirate, but she noticed that she was about to shake hands with the swordsman who tried to attack her earlier. He was leaning on the rail of the bridge, lightly dozing. Then he opened his eyes and looked at her. Sakura made a panicked squeak and quickly turned away from him. I'm Roronoa Zoro, just in case anyone else wants to know, he muttered. Naruto and Sasuke greeted him with a nod, as did he. Oh yeah, and sorry about what happened at the dock. Sakura shook her head. It's all right, she stammered. Zoro accepted her pardon, and went back to his nap. The youth with the long nose cleared his throat, and I am the great Lord Captain. No you're not. I'm the captain, interrupted Luffy indignantly. Usopp frowned and glared at Luffy. Fine, he muttered with a hint of bitterness. He cleared his throat again. I am the mighty sea warrior, Usopp, he began with a dramatic flare-like pose. Naruto nudged Sasuke's shoulder. He's as weird as Ero Sennin, he whispered to his ear as Sasuke gave a low chuckle. Usopp eyed them irritably. Hey, I'm talking here, he shouted at the boys. Naruto and Sasuke went back to their original places as if nothing happened. Usopp cleared his throat once again, and continued. Along with this band of misfits, I sail the east, west, north, and south blue, in search of the thrills of adventure. I have battled with giants, ogres, shadow cats, and other fierce monstrosities I have faced in my short lifetime. Whoa, uttered Naruto, his blue eyes were wide with amazement. Hey, wait a minute, said Kakashi giving Usopp a doubtful look. Weren't you the one that faked being injured, while we risked our lives to save those innocent people? Usopp flinched at his accusation, but nonetheless tried to keep his cool. Nonsense, he said arrogantly with a dismissing wave. I was there fighting beside you. You just didn't see me. A silence grew within the group, as a hard cold wind blew past them. Right. "So you're the captain?" asked Kakashi, to Luffy. Usopp detested being ignored, as he huffed and sat cross-legged on the ground to pout. Luffy's ears perked at the mention of his title. "That's right," he beamed proudly. "I'm Captain Monkey D. Luffy." Naruto, all of a sudden, fell to the ground, bursting into laughter. Luffy frowned. "What's so funny?" he asked dejectedly. "Your name," he managed to say in between fits of laughter. "Monkey, ha ha ha." Sakura glared at the mirthful blonde Shunin, and he immediately stopped laughing once he met her gaze. "I swear, Naruto, you are so annoying. When are you ever going to grow up?" she scolded. Naruto looked down in shame. "Sorry, Sakura-chan," he murmured apologetically, "but you have to check this out." Naruto's discouragedness didn't last for long, when he marched straight up to Luffy and started poking at his arms. Sakura was taken aback by his actions. Everyone else gave him weird looks. "Naruto, what do you think you're doing?" she yelled. Luffy started laughing. Hey, that tickles." Naruto stopped poking him and looked up at him with his face all scrunched up. "I just remembered that I asked you a question, and you never answered me," said Naruto. Luffy's head tipped to the side, obviously confused. "Huh?" Without a word, Naruto grabbed Luffy's arm and began pulling it, and managed to get Luffy's arm to stretch out to an unnatural shape. Sakura's mouth dropped. Sasuke's eyes widened. Kakashi merely blinked. So, it wasn't a jutsu, thought Sakura and Sasuke. Once Naruto stretched his arm out far enough to make his point, he let go of Luffy's hand, and it instantly retracted itself with a snap. "Now explain that," said Naruto, pointing at Luffy accusingly. Then all of a sudden, Luffy fainted. "Luffy!" Choppa shouted in panic. He ran from Nami's leg to Luffy's side, as well as everyone else. "What's wrong with him?" asked the crew surrounding the ailing captain, except Zoro, who was still sleeping. "Everyone, spread out, give him some air," said Sakura, pushing people back. "I didn't do it," called out Naruto, just in case if anyone decides to blame him. Wonder what's his problem?" murmured Sasuke, watching from the outside. Kakashi shrugged as he looked on as well. By this time, everyone was spread out into a form of a semicircle. Choppa used a blanket as a pillow, and it was placed under Luffy's head. While Luffy laid on the ground holding onto his own abdomen area, groaning in pain, with his eyes rolling into the back of his head. "Luffy, stay with me," urged Choppa, who already had his stethoscope out, checking for anything unnatural. Sakura was beside Luffy as well, watching as Choppa cared for him. "Mind if I try?" she asked Choppa. When Choppa noticed her talking to him again, he let out another squeak, and hid himself behind Usopp. "Hey, what are you doing back there? You have to save Luffy," shouted Usopp, trying to pry the little reindeer off his leg. "I'll take that as a yes," thought Sakura, and she placed her hands on Luffy's chest and abdomen. A soft blue light receded from her hands, as she began examining him. The rest of the Straw Hats stopped panicking, as they were awestruck when they saw Sakura's ability. Sanji clasped his hands together. "Sakura Swan. You're an angel," he bellowed adoringly. Frustrated, Nami grabbed Sanji by the ear, as he groaned painfully at the pressure. "Let her concentrate, Baka," she seethed. Choppa's jaws dropped with the same amazement as everybody else in the crew. It's magic," he stuttered. Sakura continued her treatment on Luffy. Kakashi walked up to them, and crouched next to the ailing captain, directly across from Sakura. "So, what seems to be the problem?" he asked in his usual casualness. The blue light from Sakura's hands faded. She put her hand to her chin, rubbing it skeptically. "That's strange," she muttered to herself. Kakashi's eyebrow raised at her result. "What is?" he inquired. Sakura stopped rubbing her chin and looked up at her sensei. "Well, he doesn't seem to be poisoned or injured anywhere," she said. "Really? Oh please." Usopp cried out as he fell to his knees in front of Sakura, with tears streaming down his face. Sakura worried for herself. Please, tell me what's wrong with my friend. Is he going to die?" "No, don't tell me, I'd rather not know, but will he live?" Suddenly, a low grumbling sound erupted from Luffy's stomach. "So hungry, he ed." Another silence formed within the group. Luffy. Nami grabs the rubber man by the shoulders and shakes him out aggressively as if he were a stubborn, dusty rag. "Baka baka baka baka. How dare you scare us all like that?" shrilled Nami. Each person's sweat dropped as Nami continued her abuse on Luffy. "HMPH, murmured Sasuke. "Those guys are even more dramatic than Naruto and Sakura." More than half a day had passed after they have decided to make camp. Zoro and Sasuke were out in the woods hunting for dinner, while Naruto and Sanji had just finished collecting firewood. Usopp was fixing the fire, while Nami sat on a fallen log, rubbing her sore feet. "Geez. How far is it to Konoha anyway? I think I got a blister," said Nami, as she kneaded her tender soles. "About 20 more miles," answered Kakashi automatically, who was lying against a nearby log, flipping the pages of his favorite book. Nami made a lamented sigh. "Nami Swan," sang out Sanji, bounding up in front of her. "Would you make me a happy man by letting me carry you all the way to Ah?" Nami shoved her bare foot onto his face. "No thanks, I'll be fine," she said simply, and pushed him away with the ball of her foot. Sanji fell back, and then rubbed his face tenderly. "Ah, Nami-san, your beautiful feet are so smooth," he mused. Right across from them, Sakura and Naruto were sitting on the grass, snickering at the sight of them. By this time, Usopp had finished setting the fire, and had walked up to the two Chunins. "Oi Naruto, how do you do that doppelganger move?" he asked the blonde boy with great interest. "It's so cool, you have to teach me how to do it." Usopp had thought about all the cool pranks he could do if he learned such an ability. "The shadow clone jutsu?" Naruto guessed. Usopp nodded fervently. Well, I don't know if you'll be able to," mumbled Naruto, scratching the back of his head. "Usopp-san," Sakura intervened. "The shadow clone jutsu is a very difficult move, and it takes a very high-ranking shinobi to be able to conjure it." Yeah, so will you teach me?" said Usopp, completely ignoring Sakura's warning. Sakura sighed, and Naruto grinned with pride. "Sure, all right," he said, his grin widening. "Let's practice after we eat, though. I'm starving. Oh yeah, that reminds me." Naruto looked behind Usopp, to see Chopper sitting beside Luffy, who was lying on the ground. His face had turned pale, and his tongue was sticking out of his mouth, breathing irregularly. "Hey Chopper, how's he doing?" he asked. The little reindeer sighed sadly. "Still hungry," he answered. Then suddenly his nose started to twitch. "Hey, that smells like..." He trailed off as he sniffed the air. He followed the scent toward the fire where he saw Sanji boiling something in a pot. "Sanji's miso soup." "Miso soup?" asked Naruto excitedly. Luffy woke up immediately. "Soup. Soup. Where? Shouted Luffy, his voice upbeat as he clapped his feet together, his mouth drooling. "It'll be done in a minute," said Sanji, as he added chopped chives into the pot and stirred. "I figured that since that kid and Melon Head are taking a long time getting dinner, that I would start us off with a little appetizer." Usopp, Luffy, and Naruto all sat together, bouncing and drooling, while they chanted, "Soup. Soup. 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 It smells really good," said Sakura, reveling the aroma. "Ah, Sakura Swan, prepared to be dazzled when you try Sanji's special miso soup," he said, as he ladled the clouded broth, poured it into a small bowl, and handed it to her. Sakura eagerly took it. It wasn't too hot, so the bowl didn't burn her hands. She blew on it a little, and took a sip of it. Once the flavor of the bean paste lathered her tongue, her eyes immediately lit up like stars. "It's delicious," she exclaimed after the bowl left her lips. She drank some more, only this time she drained the bowl completely. "More please," she demanded as she outstretched the bowl towards him. "Of course. Anything for you, my little flower," crooned Sanji. "Please don't call me that. Anything for you, my sweet." Sakura gave a frustrated sigh. Meanwhile, greater than Sasuke waited silently by the creek, crouched behind the bushes and pebble in hand. With his Sharingan, he could see clearly under the water as the trout swam carefree and oblivious of the predator that loomed above them on land. Sasuke spotted a good-sized one swimming lazily at the bottom. Then he chucked the pebble toward the fish, though not to kill it, but to startle it as the pebble zoomed close enough to graze off a few of its scales. The fish did as expected. In a panic, it jumped out of the water, and Sasuke threw his kunai with perfect timing. The black blade punctured the fish as well as pinned it against the tree behind it, along with the other 9 fish caught victim by the same tactic. And that's 10, thought Sasuke triumphantly. He hadn't seen Zoro come back yet, whom he figured was having a really hard time catching anything with all those swords to slow him down. Sasuke smirked as he imagined the stupid swordsman hacking at the water with all his swords, only to catch nothing but mud. He walked across the surface of the water, to pluck his kill off the trees. "So how did you do?" a voice called out from across the brook. Sasuke was already across, as he began to pull his kunai off one of the fish. "I did well," he said, his voice slightly tinted with arrogance, as he turned to see the swordsman. "Much less than I could say about yo." Sasuke's words had left him. His jaw dropped when he saw Zoro, holding 2 dead boars in each arm, a large basket on his back completely filled with fish, and he held another smaller basket in his mouth, filled with lemons. "Wah wah," stuttered Sasuke, dumbstruck. Zoro ed an eyebrow. "Well, if you got something to say, then say it," he said with impatience. Sasuke's eye twitched. Where did you get those lemons?" he asked. "Huh, oh these?" said Zoro, acknowledging the lemons. "I found a lemon tree about a mile from here." "You don't say," said Sasuke with a glare. Zoro was oblivious to the antagonism in the young boy's voice, as he adjusted one of the boars in his arms. Sasuke looked questioningly at the plentiful load that Zoro was carrying. "Why do you have so much?" he asked. "It's not like we're going to feed the whole forest with all that food." "Are you kidding?" scoffed Zoro. "This is just barely enough." Sasuke became confused at the statement. "That is barely enough?" he questioned slowly. "Yeah, but I think if we add your little catch, we'll be okay for the night," said Zoro, as turned to leave. "Well, we better get back, before somebody dies of hunger," he said, while walking away from the seething Uchiha. Sasuke turned back to retrieve the rest of the fish, murmuring death threats behind the swordsman's back. "Oh, you won't die of hunger. I'll give you something worse." Naruto and Luffy simultaneously drained the warm miso broth and licked up the remaining drops, and sighed with contentment as the warmth flooded within their empty tummies. "More please," they said, outstretching their bowls toward Sanji, with wide grins. "Sorry guys. It's all gone, you finished it all," said Sanji, showing them the inside of the empty pot. Naruto's face fell, and Luffy fainted again. Chopper immediately ran to his side. "No, Luffy. Stay with me," said Chopper, frantically slapping the rubber man's face with his hooves. "Ooh, so hungry," he groaned once the slapping stopped. "Me too," wailed Naruto. Sakura aggravatedly socked him on the head. "Ite. What do you mean, you're still hungry? You just had 10 servings of soup," yelled Sakura at the pained Chunin. "You didn't even leave any for Sasuke-kun." "BB but Sakura-chan." He stuttered as he tried reasoning with his huffed partner. "Well, look who's just arrived," said Kakashi, looking up at the distance, as he closed his book. Everyone turned their heads to see Sasuke and Zoro walking into the camp with dinner. "Well, it's about time," said Nami huffily. Zoro became agitated at the comment. Sasuke looked disgruntled as he carried along his catch of fish, and Zoro with his heavy load. Naruto immediately jumped up and pointed an accusing finger at Sasuke. "Sasuke Teme, what the hell took you so long?" he shouted. Usopp decided to join the fray, and pointed at Zoro. "Yeah, it's about time you got back here. Luffy has been fighting for his life this whole time," he yelled. "Do you want our captain to die?" Sasuke and Zoro ed an eyebrow at their accusation. "It was only 20 minutes, said Sasuke coldly. Zoro dropped the 2 dead boars in front of Sanji, and took the basket of lemons out of his mouth. "There," he said as he shrugged the basket of fish off his back, and let it fall to the ground. Sanji looked at the basket of lemons questioningly. "Where did you get the lemons?" he asked. Zoro sighed. "I found a lemon tree, all right?" he said frustratedly, "and if you're not satisfied, I'll tell you how I found them." Flashback greater than Zoro sped through the trees chasing the boar. The boar squealed in panic, as it scuttled within the bushes into a clearing in the forest. Once Zoro got close enough, he slashed the boar down right on the spot with a single sword slash. The creature let out a long dying squeal, before it slumped to the ground. Zoro sheathed the sword as he walked up to retrieve the animal. Just as he bent down to pick it up, he felt something hard collide against the top of his head. "What the?" he said in surprise, as he looked down to see what hit him. By the aid of the moonlight, he was able to see something small, round, and yellow. He picked it up and sniffed it. The scent was bitter with citrus. He looked up and saw branches and branches of green leaves mingling with the yellow orbs that were similar to the one in his hand. "Hey, a lemon tree," he observed. "End FB greater than, there, are you happy now?" asked Zoro with exasperation. Sanji raised his curled eyebrow. You didn't really have to tell us what happened," he said uncertainly. Zoro grunted and plopped himself next to the dying Luffy, clearly annoyed. Sanji shrugged, and put the lemons away with the rest of the food. "This is going to take a while," he muttered as he placed a fresh cigarette into his mouth. He rolled up his sleeves and began to prepare dinner. A few hours later, "Sugoi! It's a feast!" screamed Naruto with delight, as he stared, amazed at the large portions of food being passed around. Luffy regained his energy again, as he stuffed his face with the pieces of grilled boar meat and some lemon-zested fish. "I never had fish this good," said Kakashi after instantly cleaning his plate. Usopp, Zoro, and Sanji kept an intent eye on the silver-haired man as he ate. "Did you see anything?" whispered Usopp aside to Sanji on his left. "Nope, nothing," said Sanji. "What about you, Zoro?" "Me neither," he said from Usopp's right. "How is he able to eat that fast?" asked Sanji. "I don't know, but he looks kinda weird with that mask on," observed Usopp. "I know what you mean. What do you think it's for?" said Zoro looking over at Usopp. "Maybe he's hiding some hideous birth defect or something," he said rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "I wonder what he really looks like behind that mask," said Sanji, making the same expression as Usopp. Zoro did the same as they all hummed simultaneously in deep thought. "What are you three talking about over there?" asked Kakashi looking their way. All three of them tensed, and rapidly shook their heads at the same time. "Nothing, nothing at all. You must be hearing things," they each said separately with a half-hearted laugh. Kakashi didn't move his gaze. Usopp began to feel anxious as a drop of sweat fell from his brow, then the masked man blinked. "Oh, okay then," he said passively, before his expressionless eye looked at Sanji's direction. "May I have some more fish?" Sanji slightly jumped when noticed he was talking to him. "Oh, sure. Hey, here you go," he said, handing him another plate of grilled fish with a sliced lemon wedge. "Ah, arigato," he said cheerfully, gratefully taking the food from him. "No problem," said Sanji with a grin. Kakashi placed the plate of fish on his lap. Usopp, Sanji and Zoro kept their eyes on him again just as his finger began to tug against the fabric of his mask. "Oi Sanji! More meat!" shouted Luffy directly at the three of them, blocking their view of Kakashi. "Get out of the way, moron!" they shouted simultaneously, before Sanji kicked him aside on the head, but it was too late. The lemon had already been drained of its juices, and only the fish bones were left on Kakashi's plate. "Ah, that tasted much better than the last one," he said contentedly as his eye formed an upside-down grin. "You really are a good cook, wouldn't you agree, Naruto?" The blonde boy was at a loss for words, as he was stuffing his face with fish and began to gnaw at the boar meat straight from the bone. After swallowing it, he took a long swig of tea out of a cut bamboo trunk before answering. Less talking, more eating, and began to attack his third helping. Sakura, on the other hand, was trying not to finish her food. She wanted to watch her figure for Sasuke, but the food was so delicious, she couldn't keep herself from eating everything. "Oh, the hell with it," her inner self said. With that thought, she inhaled her fish and demanded a second. "Anything for you, my beautiful rosebud," Sanji cried out, before serving her. "Stop giving me pet names," she yelled irately, as she socked him on the head. The impact of her hit sent Sanji soaring across the camp, and his back slammed against a nearby tree. He slumped to the ground grinning in a daze. "Ah, Sakura Swan, your knuckles are so soft," he mumbled. No one seemed to have noticed the flying cook, as they were all too busy eating to care about anything else. Sakura was beginning to take a liking to smacking the blonde chef around, for it gave her a sense of power. But her sensible side opposed it. After all, he did cook this delicious feast for them. Sasuke didn't even touch a thing. His dark eyes were giving Zoro a stone-cold glare, as the green-haired man downed some wine he had bought with him from the ship. He seemed oblivious throughout dinner of the boy's angry eyes. Naruto had been enjoying himself. Just as he was about to bite down on his new helping of boar meat, it suddenly vanished, and Naruto nearly cracked his teeth from biting air. Nani? Hey, where did my meat go? Usopp was about to take a bite of fish, when it also vanished at mid-bite. Hey, he said with annoyance, as he glared at Luffy. More cries of missing food were uttered, until they all noticed that only one of them was growing bigger like a balloon through excessive eating. Luffy, came the jaw-dropping response of the entire Straw Hat crew as they all stood in front of the huge green wooden door that held within a great village that trained the best ninjas in the world and is also the home of the members of Team 7. That's it, yelled out Luffy, infuriated. It's just a big ugly door. Where's the restaurants? Where's the people? Where's the shops? Where's the meatite? A sock to the head was received from the pink-haired Kunoichi, who looked as if she had hit her last nerve. Have you ever heard of a thing called patience? Yelled Sakura, shaking her fist at the older youth. Hey, usually Nami hits me, he said with a pout as he rubbed the sore bump forming on his head. Nami walked up beside Sakura, and put her hand on her shoulder and smiled like a proud big sister. Well, at least I won't be the only one keeping all you guys on your toes for now, she winked at the wounded captain. That statement made every man in the group shiver with fear, except for Sanji and Kakashi. Sanji still had his heart-filled eyes on the two young women, while Kakashi was still engrossed in his book as he waited patiently for his comrades from the other side of the wall to open the door. Sanji managed to pull his eyes away from Nami, to peer curiously at the book that the silver-haired man liked reading so much. What is so interesting about that book anyway? He asked the masked man. Kakashi looked at the curious blonde for a second, and his eye crinkled into a smile. You want to see? He asked, holding the book out towards him with the open pages facing Sanji. The cook's brow raised at the sudden gesture, but then dismissed it as his eye read over a couple of the lines. Soon after his nose started to bleed, and that's when Kakashi suddenly turned the book back towards him. Hey, it was getting to the best part, cried Sanji, taken aback by Kakashi's aloofness, as he was oblivious to the blood dripping from his nose. And that's where I left off, said Kakashi as his eyes roamed over the pages. Don't want you spoiling the rest of it now. What? Sanji's disappointment didn't concern Kakashi, as the door started to open. Sanji gave the adult ninja a look of vehemence. I got to get my hands on that book, he vowed as if it were a quest to obtain a great treasure. At this moment the All Blue was second on his list of lifetime goals. Everyone entered the village. Luffy ran straight ahead of everyone to find the nearest restaurant, as did Sanji to find the nearest adult bookstore. Nami sighed disappointedly at their negligence of the more important reason for why they were here: supplies and charting. Okay, Chopper and Usopp, you two will be getting our supplies, and here's the list of what we need, she said, handing the list to Usopp. Chopper and Usopp scanned the list of items. And Zoro, you will be... Hey, where do you think you're going? She yelled, when she saw Zoro heading out to a different direction. The swordsman looked back at the irate girl. I'm going to find a weapon shop, he said, annoyed with her always giving commands. Since this place looks interesting, they might as well have some interesting weaponry. Can't do that, said Kakashi simply as he stood right next to him with his arms crossed. Zoro jumped, he wasn't there before. What? Why not? Asked Zoro, immediately vexed. You have to be a full-fledged shinobi in order to buy weapons, he instructed as if he were a student. And you, my friend, are not a shinobi. Zoro glared angrily at the laid-back ninja. Fine, he spat. You probably don't have strong weapons anyway. That's right, we don't, said Kakashi cheerfully. The shinobi of the leaf mostly use weapons for diversions. Sakura made a nervous laugh. Kakashi-sensei, aren't you being a little bit too arrogant? Course not, he said, patting his student on the head. In due time, Sakura, with Tsunade-sama's teachings your own strength and body will grow, and even you won't really need weapons. Sakura beamed at her teacher. Yeah, Sakura, chirped Naruto. Granny Tsunade is really strong, she beat me up with one finger. He held up his index finger to show her. Zoro couldn't believe what he was hearing. How can an old granny beat someone up with just one finger? He thought with bewilderment, as he imagined a stereotypical old woman with gray hair and a little pink dress slapping Naruto around with her wrinkly index finger. Zoro, called Nami, snapping Zoro out of his daydream. I need you to keep an eye on Luffy. Zoro was taken aback at being given such an absurd task. What? Why? He shouted. You know why, now just do it, Nami shouted back. Zoro grumbled angrily as he walked to the direction their captain went. Nami walked up to Kakashi and bowed before him in respect. Thank you so much for taking us to your village, she said politely. Kakashi amiably scratched the back of his head, as his visible eye crinkled with a smile. It's no problem, but might I ask, if it's not too personal, where your group is heading? He asked. Nami stood up to answer. We're traveling the Grand Line in search of the One Piece, she replied. Kakashi's silver brow raised. One Piece? He mused, holding his chin in thought. Never heard of it. Really? She questioned. But how can that be? This entire continent is right on the Grand Line. You should know about it. Said Kakashi, scratching his chin in thought, but he was interrupted when Naruto had tugged on his sleeve. Kakashi looked to his disgruntled teammates. Kaka-sensei, Naruto groaned, holding his growling stomach. Can we go now, please? I'm starving. Oh sorry, he apologized with a small chuckle. Naruto and Sakura, you two are dismissed, and Sasuke. I need you to turn these in to Iruka-sensei, he said, taking out a stack of papers from his pack and handing it to Sasuke. Sasuke looked through the papers. This is the mission report, he asked. Precisely, said Kakashi with a nod, and when you're done with that, you're automatically dismissed. Sasuke nodded and left for HQ. Yay freedom! And now ramen! Yelled Naruto with joy as he ran along the usual route to the Ichiruka ramen shop. Sakura sighed after watching the boys leave. Well, I guess I should get going, she said nonchalantly to herself. Wait! Called Usopp suddenly. Sakura looked up at him and the reindeer in question. Chopper wants to ask you something. The little reindeer shot him an angry look. Why me, Baka? He shouted vehemently, because you like her. What? No I don't. Yeah you do. Don't. Shut the hell up, both of you, shouted Nami at the top of her lungs. Chopper and Usopp froze with horrified looks at Nami, as she composed herself and cleared her throat. Oh Sakura-chan, she asked in her sweetest voice. It looks like that Usopp and Chopper need help searching for the items that we need. Do you mind helping them out? Oh no, not at all, said Sakura with a nervous laugh. I have nothing better to do anyway. Thank you so much Sakura-chan, she said pleasantly. Sakura looked to where Usopp and Chopper stood, still frozen with fear. Well, come on guys, she said with a weak smile. We don't want to keep Nami-san waiting, do we? The fearful two shook their heads vigorously, before walking quickly ahead of her. Sakura quickly followed suit, until all that was left was Nami and Kakashi. And you, do you mind helping me out with something? Asked Nami pleasantly. Said Kakashi. I'm going to need a good view of this place in order to chart it, she said, showing him her mapping tools. Kakashi rubbed his chin thoughtfully. If a view is what you're looking for, I suggest you try over there, said Kakashi, pointing at the mountainous sculptured faces of all 5 of the Hokages. Nami's eyes widened at such a sight. Wow, she whispered in awe. I'm sure Nico Robin would have loved to see this, she thought. A magnificent structure, a voice said behind them. There's history written all over those faces. Nico Robin? Said Nami, dumbfounded at her unexpected presence. The dark-haired woman gave her slyest smirk at the both of them. Weren't you supposed to be watching the Going Merry? Asked Nami. I was, but the sailors in the last village were very grateful for our help of defeating a certain pirate, that they wanted to guard our ship with their lives until we came back, she said nonchalantly. Oh, well, okay, said Nami, not sure what to say for such generosity. Kakashi quickly took note of this. I believe the words you are searching for are, thank you, he chimed in. Yeah sure, anyway how about I get this done, huh? You want to come Robin? Asked Nami as she gathered her charting equipment. Of course, as long as Master Ninja will tell me the story about this amazing piece of work, she said, eyeing the 5 stone faces with keen interest. Kakashi's eye crinkled into a smile. Why not? He said, as he put both his arms out, for each of the female pirates to link to. In return, maybe you can tell me about this one piece. All right, said Nami and Nico in unison. The women each grabbed an arm, as they walked towards the great Hokage monument in educated discussion. Sasuke walked into HQ, to find Iruka-sensei to be the only one in the room, and it seems that he had fallen asleep. His head was being supported by his hand as he snored aloud. The young boy's brow raised at the sight of him like this. HMPH, sleeping on the job, he muttered skeptically. Sasuke walked towards his sleeping former sensei, and poked his shoulder. Iruka woke with a start. Huh? What? Oh, it's you, Sasuke, he said with a sheepish smile. Sasuke mutely handed the report papers to Iruka-sensei. Oh, the first report of the day, good, he said taking the papers. Thank you, Sasuke, you're free to go. The stoic boy nodded silently and turned to leave. Oh, and Sasuke, said Iruka. Sasuke paused, but he did not turn to look at him. Please don't tell Tsunade that I was sleeping on the job, she'll wring my neck for it, he half pleaded. Sasuke just stood there for a moment. Iruka could never know what goes on in his former student's head. Then Sasuke continued walking to the door. Iruka watched as he left the room, hoping that he wasn't going to tell anyone. The young man sighed as he leaned back in his hard wooden chair. He wished that they have given him something more comfortable to sit on, but alas, a ninja's life is not all about comfort, but work. Iruka looked at the papers in front of him, knowing that it would be a while before another report comes along. I might as well give it a read, he thought as he picked up the papers and started reading. About a few minutes of reading the report, Iruka's hands along with the report dropped back onto the desk, as his face was covered in shock. Pirates? In Konoha? He shouted aloud. What is Kakashi-sensei thinking? Iruka immediately got up from his chair, ran out of HQ with Kakashi's report still in hand. Tsunade-sama must know. Naruto skipped merrily towards the Ichiruka ramen house, humming his little ramen song. Oi! But his humming was interrupted when he noticed a pair of legs dangling over his favorite spot in the small noodle house. His happy mood slightly deteriorating, he marched huffily towards the culprit who sat on his seat. Moving the restaurant's curtains aside, he was surprised to find who it was. Luffy Nichin. The older boy with the straw hat and a mouthful of noodles dangling from his mouth, turned to see Naruto. He quickly slurped the remaining noodles and smiled at the blonde boy. Oi Naruto Nichin. You gotta try this stringy stuff, it's great, he said scooping another bunch of noodles and slurping away. Luffy wasn't the only one there. Sitting next to him was the green-haired swordsman, his face covered in a frown as he sipped on a cup of tea. He turned to glance at the blonde boy. Yo, he said curtly, and returned to his tea. Naruto sat on the stool next to Luffy, and noticed that he was 3 ramen bowls ahead of him. A competitive spark had risen within him. 1 miso ramen, please, Naruto ordered. Hi, said the old man, as he was kneading the noodle dough. Miso? I haven't tried that one yet, said Luffy excitedly. Hey, I want miso too. Hi, Zoro sighed. I'm not paying for that, you know, he said, but Luffy ignored him as pounded his fists on the table, bouncing excitedly chanting for miso ramen. Miso. 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 At the top of the Hokage monument, Nami had just finished setting up her measuring tools for her map-making. Kakashi and Nico Robin were standing over the edge, while Kakashi discussed each of the stone faces of the monument as the intrigued Nico Robin listened to every word. The 5th face on the left there is our current Hokage. So far she has been a very commanding leader, and the scariest. Not only is she a powerful Sannin, but she is also a master medic, lectured Kakashi. Why, Mr. Ninja, your knowledge of your own village's history is very acute, she complimented smoothly. Kakashi scratched his head nervously with a sheepish grin. Oh, and what's this? Is he blushing? Ha ha, Robin-san, you're too kind, he said slightly embarrassed. Kakashi-san, called out Nami. This place is just perfect for my map-making, arigato. Do itashimashite, Nami-san, he called back, before turning back to face the view of the entire village with Nico Robin. Oh look. There's Master Chef, said Nico Robin pointing down at the village. Kakashi followed her pointing. to find Sanji sprinting frantically around the bookstore district. Kakashi's silver brow arched. "So it is," he said. "I guess he wants to know what happens next." "And there's Chopper and Usopp, and one of your students," she said, pointing to another direction, and sure enough, there was Chopper in reindeer form, carrying a heavy load of bags on his back. Usopp and Sakura, who weren't holding anything, were looking at the goods of a certain vendor. I wonder where Naruto and Luffy-san could be," thought Kakashi, with his soul eye scanning the view of the village. "Probably in a restaurant somewhere stuffing themselves silly." All of a sudden, a puff of smoke appeared behind him. Nami was startled out of her telescope, while Nico blinked in surprise. Murmured Kakashi, turning his head back to observe a very disgruntled ninja. "Iruka-sensei. A while ago." Bang, bang, bang. "Hokage-sama," shouted someone from outside the Hokage's office. Tsunade groaned frustratedly as she slammed her paperwork back on the desk. "What is it?" she barked. "Urgent news," yelled the annoying speaker on the other side. Tsunade sighed, as if she needed more things to worry about. "Come in," she called out, resignedly. Iruka Bum rushed through the door so hard that the breeze caused by its swinging sent the papers on the Hokage's desk flying. Tsunade inwardly seethed. All that time and patience to organize all that paperwork, wasted. "Hokage-sama. You won't believe what has just happened, Kakashi." Kakashi did. Peer. Iruka wasn't able to finish his sentence, as he realized the contemptuous look in the Hokage's gaze aiming right at him. Slowly the door of the Hokage's office swung steadily to a close. Muffled. "Hokage-sama. No. No, 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 Hokage-sama, please don't." Crash. "Wait. Wait. Let me just, bang. No, not the fist. Please Hokage-sama, I'm begging you." Smack. Arg. Pirates. Kakashi bought pirates in the Villaage. There is a pause, as everything becomes still. Tsunade's desk was broken in half, her sake bottle shattered in pieces, and poor Iruka laid in a heap. Half of his face was red and swollen from Tsunade's fist. However, Tsunade stood in the middle of her wrecked office, astonished at the news she just heard, and more irate than ever. "Bring me Kakashi," she managed to say as calmly as she could. End flashback. "Iruka?" Kakashi asked again, looking expectantly at the swollen-headed young man with slight concern. "What happened to your face?" Iruka said nothing, as he just glared at silver-haired man in front to him, as he was the cause of his current suffering. Half of Iruka's face was now purple, and slightly pulsing. He inhaled sharply. "Kakashi-sensei," he prompted pompously with his remaining dignity. "The Hokage summons you to her office." "Oh, Iruka-sensei. I want you to meet some new friends of mine," said Kakashi, completely disregarding Iruka's authority. "This here is Nico Robin." Nico Robin gave a sultry nod towards the fuming Chunin. "And the young lady over there at the telescope is Nami. This is no time for introductions, you idiot. You must head to the Hokage's office immediately," he exploded, with spit flying onto Kakashi's covered face, before disappearing within a ring of smoke. Then he instantly poofed right back. "Nice to meet you both," he bowed, then he disappeared once again. Kakashi sighed as wiped the spit off his face with the back of his hand. "Say it, don't spray it," thought Kakashi. My, isn't he an uptight one," said Nico Robin, crossing her arms. "And rude," said Nami huffily, before scribbling measurements in a notepad. "Well, at least he's gone," said Kakashi nonchalantly, leaning comfortably against the railing. "But Master Ninja," asked Nico Robin, confused. "Are you going to keep your Lady Hokage waiting? It sounded pretty urgent." She could wait a few hours," said Kakashi passively with a shrug, as he reached into his kunai pouch to take out his little orange book. He skimmed through some of the pages. "Now onto my favorite part, Nico and Nami shared a glance with one another, then shrugged it off, and continued what they were doing. In the middle of town, Usopp and Chopper were resting on a bench under a tree, next to a mountain of shopping bags of their previous purchases. Usopp took up the whole bench snoring loudly, while gaining some strange looks from the villagers. Chopper was lying on his stomach, pooped out from all the shopping and the heat. "It's so hot, Ed the little reindeer, can't take the heat." Ah, you guys look like you could use a little refreshment, said a voice. Chopper wearily looked up to see where the voice came from, only to find that it was Sakura, smiling down at them and holding 3 blue popsicles, fresh off the freezer. With a sudden rush of energy, the little blue nose sprung up. Popsicles! Cried Chopper excitedly, causing Usopp to wake up. Huh? He said blearily, then noticing the popsicles. Hey cool. They each grabbed one, and licked merrily. So sweet, said Chopper savoring the flavor. Sakura laughed at their reactions, before she was about to try hers. Sakura-chan! Somebody yelled out. They all turned to see where the voice came from, which made Sakura gasp in horror. Oh no, she said, horrified. It's Lee-san. Who? Asked Usopp. Apparently he wasn't fully awake. The green spandex-clad, fuzzy-browed teenager bolted through the crowd in HOR pursuit towards Sakura and her new friends. Ah! Cried a frightened Chopper, waving his little hooves frantically, dropping his popsicle. He's gonna kill us. Hide me. He hid next to Usopp's leg. Hey! Get your own popsicle, said the tired, sea adventurer, trying to shake the reindeer off his leg. Within a flash, Rock Lee appeared in between Sakura and the 2 bewildered pirates, with his arms outstretched to protect his favorite Sakura blossom. Don't worry Sakura, I'll protect you, he said heroically, glaring down at Usopp and Chopper, as they both held onto each other cowering in fear. Those IB brows, stuttered Chopper in fright. They're so BBB bushy, said Usopp just as fearfully. Rock Lee's ego seemed to not have heard them, as he continued his so-called act of valor. I'll never forgive a person who would steal a beautiful woman's popsicles. Sakura's fist clenched, and her anger spiked. She lifted her leg high, and slammed her heel hard against the top of Lee's head, making him fall with great impact on the ground. You idiot! She screamed irately, shaking her fist at the comatose boy. How dare you be rude to my new friends? I gave them those popsicles out of sheer kindness. Usopp and Chopper stared at the pink kunoichi in pure amazement. Wow, Sakura-san! Cried the two in unison with admiration. You saved us. You're so strong, but Sakura-chan, said Lee weakly, his body sprawled on the ground as a large bump emerged from the top of his head. Why are you protecting these villains? Sakura rolled her eyes and sighed. They aren't villains, Lee-san, they're my friends, she explained to him. That's right, Usopp chimed in. Which makes you the villain, and as her protectors, state your name criminal. Hia, villain, called out Chopper bravely as he formed the battle stance of the crane. Within an instant the bowl-headed boy sprang back up onto his feet and into his nice guy pose. Usopp and Chopper jumped. Ah! How did he get up that fast? They both cried in fear. I am Rock Lee, and I accept your challenge. The winner gets to be Sakura's protector for life. Sakura slapped her hand against her forehead. Kami, help me. Sanji walked through the streets of Konoha, engrossed in a certain orange book. As he walked, he didn't even notice the large number of beautiful women passing him by, giving him strange looks. He flipped to the next page, reading every syllable, hungrily. Hey, old man, I'm still hungry, called a familiar voice. Knowing that sound, Sanji was finally able to tear himself away from his book to find Luffy helping that blonde kid from earlier, trying to resuscitate an old man at a small noodle restaurant. Come on grandpa, pull yourself together, yelled Naruto, slapping the noodle chef in the face. Huh? What? It seems that the old man had finally woken up. Just then a young woman ran out of the restaurant in a panic. Papa, are you okay? Cried the young woman worriedly, as she bent down to help up the old man. Just then, Sanji appeared right next to them. Don't worry, my beautiful maiden, I'll carry him for you, said Sanji, holding up the old noodle chef by the arm. I wouldn't want you to hurt yourself by carrying such a burden over your delicate shoulders. What the, began the old man, glaring at the tall blonde. Ayame tried to speak for her dear father. Oh, he's really not a burden. Ah, I see you're wearing an apron. Are you a chef? Sanji crooned at the young women with heart-shaped eyes. Well, me and my father own this ramen stand. Yeah, they make the best ramen ever, yelled Naruto enthusiastically. Baka. Never interrupt a lady, yelled Sanji at Naruto. Oi Sanji. Make something. I'm still hungry, cried Luffy, banging his fists on the counter. Must you all be so noisy? Yelled Zoro, annoyed with all the yelling, as he tried to enjoy his tea in peace. Oh, the ramen, cried Ayame, as she quickly ran back into the ramen stand, before the noodles would get overboiled. Once inside the restaurant, she turned off the burners, strained the noodles, and put them in the waiting broth-filled bowls, and served them to Luffy and Naruto. The two enthusiastic ramen lovers clapped their hands together and gave thanks. Itatakamatsu, and they both dug right in, slurping their noodles happily. Ayame sighed with relief. What is it you're cooking here, Chef Swan? Asked Sanji, appearing out of nowhere, making the young girl jump. Ayame, wheezed the old ramen chef, whom Sanji carefully placed on a nearby chair inside the restaurant. We're going to have to close soon, I can't go on. It's too much work to satisfy those two boys. Oi, called a voice that belonged to the chubbiest ninja in the village. Iichoji, you gonna eat with us? Asked Naruto, before slurping another helping of noodles. Certainly, one miso pork ramen, please, the old chef Ed lamentedly. Ayame grew worried. But we have so many customers, she said to herself. Hi. Miso pork, coming up, huh? Ayame turned to find the blonde stranger from earlier, expertly kneading the fresh noodle dough. She gasped. What are you doing? She asked in alarm. Sanji looked over at Ayame and flashed her a shiny smile. What else? I'm feeding your customers. Meanwhile, back at the Hokage Tower, Tsunade sat behind her broken desk, with her arms crossed over her chest, while tapping her foot impatiently. She glanced at a nearby clock and jumped up in a rage. Shizune. Just at that moment, her apprentice burst into the office, with Tsunade's little pig in her arms. Tsunade-sama, she addressed, standing at attention in front of the fuming Godem. Kakashi is late, she explained. I want you to bring him here, and I want him to tell me why is he bringing trouble back with him, when he was supposed to deal with it during his mission. Hi. Pooh. Pooh, puffed Tonto indignantly. Shizune quickly turned to leave. Wait. Called out Tsunade. Shizune stopped on her tracks, and turned to her mentor once again. Call the rest of Team 7 here as well, she commanded. Hi. Shizune quickly ran for the door. Wait. Called out the Godem once more. Shizune reluctantly turned to face her one last time. And while you're at it, she began, before settling back in her chair, with a look of scheming. See if you can round up those pirates, too. She suddenly had a great idea. Sakura, Usopp, and Chopper were back to walking the streets again, but instead of Chopper holding all the shopping bags, Lee followed the group obediently carrying all their stuff. Sakura-chan, are you sure there isn't anything else for me to carry? He asked through an empty space of the stacked supplies he was carrying. Sakura tried to think. Chopper, is there anything else you need? The little reindeer took out the long list and began to scan through it once more. Anything. Exotic. Chopper read slowly. There is a pause, and the four give each other skeptical looks. Let me see that, said Sakura, taking the list from Chopper and analyzed it. Hey, the writing here is different from the rest, she concluded. Another pause. Usopp shrugged. Oh well, I guess that's it then. Oh my god. The four friends jumped at the sudden outburst, that Lee had almost dropped all the items. Fortunately, for hard-earned speed he was unable to drop a single parcel. That was the best ramen I have ever tasted in my entire life. The strange yelling continued. Sakura and the others looked to see that as came from a very ecstatic Konoha civilian. And I usually hate ramen. There's this new chef at Ichiraku and his noodles are fantastic. Come on everybody, you got to try it. Suddenly, a crowd of people rushed out of their homes and ran towards the direction of the Ichiraku ramen stand. The street emptied somewhat, leaving the foursome bewildered. What's ramen? Asked Usopp curiously. Iruka walked back to HQ, with a miserable slump. His face was now back to normal, but he was still miffed about the fact that the Hokage had to be so forceful on him. He sighed, and continued walking down the path, until he noticed a strange commotion at the Ichiraku ramen stand. There was a large crowd surrounding the little noodle bar, crying out for ramen. Curious, Iruka walked up to the crowd, and as the customers clamored, he saw through an open space, to find Naruto, draining the broth from what seemed to be his 25th ramen bowl. A new record. Naruto, called out Iruka from outside the crowd. Naruto's head shot up instantly, and looked out through the crowd. He made a wide foxy grin when he saw who it was. Iruka-sensei. He waved enthusiastically. Iruka pushed through the crowd to get to his former student, earning angry remarks from the waiting patrons. Hey, back of the line. No cutting. You don't have the right. I'm next. Iruka managed to make it to Naruto in one piece. Naruto, what is going on? He asked the blonde boy. Iruka-sensei, I want you to meet somebody. Hey Luffy Nissan, said Naruto, ignoring Iruka's question. Iruka turned to see he was about to be introduced to, and made a gasp of horror. There was at least 100 bowls piled up to the roof and continued to grow, as a balloon of a person wearing a straw hat gorged ceaselessly on ramen, until now. Luffy's small head turned to their direction. Naruto Nissan, said the balloonish person. Iruka-sensei, this is Luffy, captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, said Naruto, before turning back to the counter. Iruka gawked at the balloon. Pirates? You're a pirate? He asked astonishingly to Luffy. Yup, said Luffy grinning. And so is he. He pointed at the blonde man, smoking a cigarette behind the counter of the ramen house. Oi, Sanji, another bowl of miso, called out Naruto. Damn it, kid, haven't you had enough? Said Sanji, very annoyed. Iruka eyed the chef warily. Oh yeah, and he's with us too, continued Luffy, as he moved aside so Iruka could see the stoic green-haired swordsman sitting next to him. Iruka gave the swordsman a suspicious stare. Suddenly, as if Zoro knew Iruka had been staring at him, he shot him a deadly glare. Hey Melonhead, since you're not eating anything, why don't you make some room, will ya? Scolded Sanji, pointing his ladle spoon threateningly at him. Fine, said the swordsman, taking his gaze away from Iruka as he stood up from his seat. Hey Zoro, where you going? Asked Luffy. Someplace quiet, he said, as he walked out of the restaurant. Luffy shrugged and went back to slurping his noodles. Hey, I asked for another bowl, called out Naruto indignantly. Sanji glared at the whiskered boy. And I thought I told you, you've had enough, he growled. Now why don't you make some room for the other customers? The other customers erupted with agreement. Yeah, move it kid. I hear this guy makes even better ramen than the old man. Ooh, he's handsome too. Sanji was at the end of his rope. Y'all see? They want to eat. Now beat it, yelled Sanji. Then how come Luffy gets to eat all the ramen he wants? Whined Naruto, pointing at the gorging balloon. Oh, is that what's bothering you? Suddenly, the oblivious captain of the Straw Hats received a strong kick to the face from over the counter, which made him fly off the stool and landed a few feet away from his seat, and his spot was quickly replaced by another customer. Hey, I was still eating, said Luffy, as he struggled to stand, but his weight refused to comply with his actions, as he wiggled on the ground like a helpless turtle. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the cook. What horrible treatment. I'm never eating here again, said Naruto crossing his arms. Sanji shrugged. Fine. Who's next? Naruto started to cry. Oh, come on. Just one more bowl of miso, please. Pleaded Naruto, making sad teary eyes, but all that gave him is a kick in the face off the stool as well. He landed on his bottom. Pouted the hungry kitsune. Iruka sighed. Naruto. He muttered, hoisting the boy up. Thanks Iruka-sensei. Hey, can you help me with Luffy? Naruto turned to find that his former teacher no longer beside him. Instead he found Iruka sitting on the seat he was kicked off of earlier. One plain ramen please. Iruka ordered. Naruto's eyes bulged. Traitor. Then out of the blue, a squad of Anbu appeared out of nowhere, and surrounded the area. Naruto was at a loss for words. What the? Was all he could utter, until he saw a group of them grab Sanji and Luffy. Iruka jumped off his seat. He was surprised as well as the rest of the patrons at the ramen stand. Hey, what's the big idea? I'm still cooking here, shouted Sanji, as he struggled against the female ANBU's grip. Is there a mask party going on or something? Said Luffy, looking curiously at the three Anbu soldiers that held his obese body off the ground. Naruto, on the other hand, became very incensed. Hey, what do you think you're doing to my new friends? shouted Naruto, and before he knew it, one of the Anbu grabbed him as well. Let go of me, Naruto, yelled Iruka, before narrowing his eyes at the Anbu soldier. You. What is the meaning of this? The cat-masked soldier only looked at him. Hokage's orders. Robin's blue eyes were fixed at small part of the town, where there was a large commotion going on. Master Ninja? She asked Kakashi, her stare unmoving. Said Kakashi, who remained immersed to the words of his favorite book. There seems to be a disturbance down there. Kakashi didn't move, as he kept on reading, but his hearing was able to hear the shouts and uproars from below. Wonder what it could be, he said, without a care in either of his words. Kakashi-senpai. A strange hand appeared out of nowhere, over Kakashi's book, and pushed it down from his view, and he found himself face to face with Tsunade's former apprentice, Shizune. Oh, Shizune-san, didn't know you were here, said Kakashi, crinkling his eye to a smile. Ah! Came a yelp from Nami. Where the heck did she come from? Strange, thought Nico. She wasn't here at all, just a second ago. Poo-poo. Nami jumped when she noticed a little pig, rummaging through her tools inside her bag. Ah! Get away from there, you stupid animal, she screeched, thwacking the little pig with a roll of graph paper. Pooh! Squealed Tonto after getting hit, yanking its head out of the bag and ran back to Shizune's side. It made a piggy-eyed glare at Nami. Pooh-pooh mmmmhh. It seethed. Sorry to ruin your relaxation period, but Tsunade-sama requires your attention, ordered Shizune. And I am to escort all of you to her office, immediately. Sasuke arrived at the Hokage Tower late in the afternoon. He walked through the hallway slowly with his well-known frown, muttering curses at the fact that an Anbu had knocked on his door during his nap to receive more orders from Tsunade. He was still tired from last night's watch, and very cranky due to the lack of sleep, that almost anything will make him severely angry at this point. Crash. Give me back my swords, you clowny-ass bastards. Sasuke's dark eyes narrowed at the thrashing green-haired swordsman, being held down by 4 Anbu. Let go. Damn it. Sasuke thought bitterly with a clenched fist, not him again. The Godime's office door bursted open, as the Anbu soldiers brought in the resisting Zoro, all tied up in regular rope, and as forcefully seated into a chair. He tried straining to get up, but the masked-faced soldiers held him down by his shoulders, like planted 2-ton weights. Hey, didn't you hear what I just saw, huh? Zoro stopped thrashing when he noticed that everyone was here. The whole crew and the ninja team were all standing around the room, except for Luffy, who was seated against the wall. Apparently the balloonish boy still had trouble standing on his 2 feet. Hiya, Zoro, said Luffy, waving at him, with a big smile on his stupid scarred face. What the heck is going on? Asked Zoro, looking around the room. HMPH. That's what I like to know, said Sasuke, leaning against the doorway. Who asked you? Glared the swordsman. Glad of you to join us, said Kakashi with a hidden smile to the irate duo. Sasuke Teme, you're late, said Naruto as he clenched his fist. Hi Sasuke-kun, said the smiling Sakura, waving at him. HMPH. Sasuke turned his head away from her. Sakura's shoulders slumped. Ah, Sasuke-kun. Tsunade's throat cleared to get everyone's attention. That's enough. Now I don't know about you all, but I would like to get down to business, she said. Kakashi's brow raised in question. Business? I thought you were going to punish us for bringing our new friends to Konoha, said Kakashi. And that's what they are, our friends, Tsunade retorted with a grin. Does that mean I'm your friend too? Crooned Sanji, as the hearts in his eyes beated lovingly at the 5th Hokage. Nami fumed at his actions, and had the sudden urge to slap him, but she didn't. Tsunade ignored him as she continued her speech. Now, I have here in possession a special mission, she began. A mission? Everyone said in unison. Yes, a mission overseas. She took out a very old and dusty scroll. Recently, there have been reports of a strange island at least 1,000 leagues from here. Oh yeah, what's so strange about it? Asked Naruto. Well, it says here that it only reveals itself every few hundred years. Sakura tilted her head in confusion, but how can there be reports now, if it only shows up once every few centuries? There have been some sightings. Ghost sightings. Naruto paled instantly. GGH ghosts. He whimpered. Sasuke smirked. HMPH. You afraid of ghosts, Dobi? Naruto flashed a glare at the Uchiha. No, I'm not. Kakashi's eye narrowed at the two boys. Cut it out, you two, chastised Kakashi. Now let's get back to the matter at hand. Zoro snorted and began to make himself comfortable on the chair. Screw this, I'm going to sleep, he muttered, before yawning and instantly falling asleep. No one seemed to notice the swordsman doze off, as their attention remained focused on the current discussion. Tsunade-sama, what do you mean by ghost sightings? Asked Kakashi seriously. Tsunade looked back at the scroll. Says here that some sailors spotted this island and tried to land on it, but they kept going through it. They made some more attempts to land, but then it just disappeared. Kakashi thoughtfully rubbed his chin. Ghost-like indeed. Naruto pouted. Is that it? Aw man, I was hoping to go against a real ghost this time, said Naruto, pounding his fist with excitement. Sasuke scoffed. Weren't you scared a little while ago? He drawled, which infuriated the blonde ninja. Shut up, Sasuke, he shouted. Fear not, comrades, barged in Usopp. For I am not afraid of something as mere as ghosts. Why, about 3 years ago, yours truly fought bravely against a ghost and came out victorious. Chopper and Naruto's eyes widened in admiration. Hoo-ah. Really? Asked Chopper excitedly. How'd you do it? Tell me, asked Naruto with eagerness. Sasuke narrowed his cold eyes at the long-nosed pirate. Ghosts are transparent, you lying doby, he said coolly. You can't land a punch on a ghost, unless it's fake. Usopp glared at Sasuke. Oh yeah? Well. You never fought a ghost before, came back Usopp. Chopper laughed nervously as a drop of sweat came down his brow. Nice comeback, Usopp, heh. Yeah, Sasuke Teme, you never fought against a ghost, growled Naruto in approval. And neither have any of you, yelled an irritated Sasuke. Usopp and Naruto slouched depressingly as the both mumbled. You don't have to be so blunt. Nami however remained skeptical with Tsunade's theory. Well, I've heard of pirate ghosts and ghost ships, but a ghost island, said Nami. Tsunade nodded. I know it's hard to believe, but there is a reason I want you to find this island, she said. It is rumored that there is a mysterious treasure. Luffy brightened. Nami immediately had dollar signs on her eyes. Treasure? He exclaimed. Could it be One Piece? Tsunade looked at the obese boy quizzically. One Piece? She asked. She looked to the rest of the group in her office. What on earth is that? Hey booby lady, intervened Luffy, waving his skinny arms at the suddenly peeved Godem. Have you ever heard of Gold Roger? Tsunade's brows furrowed. Who? Oh. Well anyway, Straw Hats, she addressed the pirate crew. You will help this Konoha's Team 7 find the treasure, and you will also bring them back here safely. You will get 10% of the treasure for your cooperation. At this, Nami fumed. She walked up to the Godaim's new desk and slammed down her fist on the hard wood. Tsunade remained calm, as if such a weak action alone would scare her. 10%? Yelled Nami, glaring at the large-chested woman. There is no way that I'll work for you for a measly 10%. I demand 50 or no deal. Tsunade only looked at the young redhead with dismay. Fine. She said inertly. You will get 15. No, I said 50. 20. Take it or leave it. Nami growled. She didn't like not having the last word. She was about to ask for another raise of the percentage, but both Naruto and Luffy cut right in, sealing the deal. We'll do it. They both yelled excitedly in unison. Nami was furious, as she made death glares at the two excited boys. Tsunade smirked. Great. You leave tomorrow morning. This scroll will tell you the rest. Dismissed. And soon the adventure begins. Wow, I can't believe we're actually going to be on a real pirate ship, said Naruto enthusiastically, skipping with each step as he and the rest of the crew traveled down the road to the port where the Merry-Go is docked. Sakura, walking beside Naruto, was just as thrilled as her teammate. Ooh, this is so exciting, she kicked in high spirits. Sasuke however remained cool as ever. HMPH, you two act as if you've never been on a ship before, he said. Naruto made a squinty face at the other boy. Of course we have, but this is a pirate ship, emphasized Naruto. Sasuke only rolled his eyes. Whatever, he murmured. Kakashi closed his book. Seems like we're close, said Kakashi, putting the graphic novel away. It's just as he says, the port where the pirate ship was last seen came into view. Chopper, trotting next to Kakashi in deer form, sighed with relief. Good. I can't take this heat much longer, he lamented. Robin-san. Another popsicle please. Of course, Master Doctor, she said as she opened the cooler she was carrying, and took out a blue popsicle. By this time Chopper was jumping up and down for it. Robin chuckled as she shoved the treat in his mouth. Sighing out of satisfaction, he sucked on the popsicle like a pacifier. Avigado. Naruto nudged Sasuke in the ribs. Race you to the ship, he said with a mischievous smirk. Sakura giggled as she bounded ahead of the two. Not if I make it first, she called out. Hey Sakura, no fair, cried Naruto as he dashed behind. Sasuke only harumphed and continued walking. Naruto ran backwards to yell out these words. What's wrong Sasuke Teme? You giving up to Sakura-chan, what a wimp. That did it. Sasuke bolted, blowing smoke behind him, leaving a few pirates coughing. Hey! Nami shouted, followed by a hacking cough. Zoro coughed as well. Dumb kids. They've come for me, cried out Usopp, gasping for air. Could it be that the great sea adventurer Usopp will meet his fate with the enemy's poisonous gas? Nami smacked his head, knocking him into the ground, before muttering. Maybe not. Sasuke passed Sanji, while he was reading. The dust blocked him from reading a very interesting passage. Little bastard. Sakura bumped into Luffy. Huh? Sorry Luffy-san. Racing here, she called out, not stopping. Ooh, a race, said Luffy, intrigued, until he was bumped again by Naruto. Oi! Watch it, yelled Naruto. Luffy watched as he got ahead of Sakura. Hey, she pouted. Luffy heard more speeding footsteps behind him. Move out of the way, yelled the ego-tripped Sasuke, shoving Luffy out of his path. Nani? Sasuke got ahead of Sakura with no trouble at all. Go get him Sasuke-kun. Avenge your love, Sasuke growled at the comment as he pressed on further, now at equal speed with Naruto. They were almost near the ship. First one to touch the ram's head wins, said Naruto. And it's going to be me, growled Sasuke. No, me. Lightning bolted from between their glaring eyes, full of the energy of their competitive nature. Gomu Gomu Goo. Wah. A long rubber arm zoomed past the boys' heads, and was followed by a speeding close-up of a grinning Luffy with his other arm holding down his hat. Startled, Sasuke and Naruto jumped out of Luffy's way, as he swung with ease onto his favorite sitting spot of the ram's head. Me, he said, grinning. Naruto scowled. You cheated, he loudly accused the captain with his swirly index finger. By this time, Sakura caught up to them, panting rather heavily. Did Sasuke-kun win? She asked. She looked at both of the boys. Naruto was yelling at the laughing Luffy, while Sasuke sat on the ground seething. Oh, she said, already figuring out the end result of their match. The sails came down, and caught the winds within a breath, and soon they were off into the ocean in pursuit of the ghost island that hid the mysterious treasure. Hoo-hoo-hoo! Luffy cheered for the vast ocean that he loved so much. Nami sighed comfortably as she sat on her folding chair, and opened the day before yesterday's newspaper. Ah, it's good to be back on the sea, she said, as she began to read some old news. Nico sat next to her, and opened her Rainbow Falls book. It sure is, she replied, before reading. Meanwhile, Sasuke groaned as the ship moved. He hugged his stomach, and his face had a bit of a green tinge. Sakura immediately grew concerned. Sasuke-kun, are you all right? She asked lightly, embracing him, but Sasuke pushed her away from him, and dashed towards the end of the deck, and retched his breakfast from the side of the ship. Sakura put her hands to her mouth in shock. Oh Sasuke-kun! Naruto bursted out laughing, and pointed mockingly at the ill ninja. Oh man, stupid Sasuke is seasick. What a loser, said Naruto, doubling over from laughing too much. Sakura instantly became vengeful. Naruto, she seethed, as she rolled up her sleeves, while glaring at the blonde. Naruto's laughter began to falter when noticing Sakura now in her furious state. He backed away slightly, putting his hands up in defense. No, no, Sakura-chan. I was only kidding. Too afraid to finish his sentence, the boy sprinted for dear life, with Sakura right on his tail. Come back here, you bastard, she screamed. You better apologize to Sasuke-kun right now. The two young shinobi ran around the deck, almost bumping into Zoro, who was just about to grab hold of the anchor. Their yelling startled him and almost made him let go of the rope, but he was able to catch it quickly before it fell back into the ocean. Hey! Watch where you're going, you little brats, he yelled at them. Naruto! No, Sakura-chan. Please! Don't hurt me. The two continued to run around the deck, until passing Sasuke once again. Shut the hell up, he murmured before vomiting, once again. While all this was happening, Kakashi walked up to Nami and Nico as they read. Mind if I join you? He asked politely. The two women both looked up, smiling, and nodded. Why, of course you can, Master Ninja, said Nico, while patting an empty space right next to her. Kakashi obliged, as he sat on the wooden deck next to her chair, and took out his own reading material. All the while Sakura and Naruto caused chaos around the ship, that Luffy soon took notice. Hey, that looks like fun, he said, as he jumped off the ram head and joined the two in their loud chasing game. Let's kill Naruto. Naruto panicked when he noticed not only Sakura chasing him in blazing fury, but Luffy too. Not you too, Luffy-Nissan. What did I ever do to you? Luffy patted his right shoulder, while baring a rubber fist towards him. You made Sanji kick me out of the restaurant while I was still eating, he yelled. Naruto recounted that incident while still running for his life. Oh yeah, he muttered in realization, but then came back to earth just in time to jump over the three bookworms sitting in comfortable silence. Oi, Kaka-sensei, a little help? He called out to his distracted teacher. Not right now, Naruto. Why don't you ask Sasuke? He said, his eyes unmoving from the book, as he turned to the next page, while Naruto jumped over them again, after another trip around the deck. He's puking his brains out, you moron. Kakashi looked up from his book to see the dark-haired boy hunched over the end of the boat, indeed, puking his brains out. So he is. And went back to his reading. Naruto let out a lamented groan, and decided to change his direction. Instead of running another lap around the ship deck, he made a dash toward the cabin. The cabin door opened with Chopper emerging from the inside, holding and analyzing a shiny blue ball. This should do it, he murmured thoughtfully. Get out of the way. Chopper looked up just in time to see the mad rush of people coming straight for him. The little reindeer's eyes bulged as he screamed, before leaping to the side, safely dodging the stampede. Bursting into the room, with Sakura and Luffy in hot pursuit. Luffy stretched out his arm and caught Naruto by the foot, tripping him. While Sakura climbed on top of his back, and was about to pound the hell out of him, until she smelled something delicious. All three looked up to find Sanji setting up the table with one hand, and the other holding the book that their teacher always reads, while smoking a Konohan cig. The table was covered in delicious delicacies that Naruto and Sakura had never seen before. Plates of large and unique fish, grilled to perfection, a giant pot of what seemed to smell like Sanji's miso soup, large bowls of seasoned shrimp rice, steamed lobster, and most importantly a giant plate of a large pile of meat on the bone. All three were drooling at the sight of such a feast. After Sanji placed the last plate on the table, he gave half of his attention to the three, as the other half remained on the book. Dinner is served, he said. Sugoi, they yelled out in unison. All three jumped near an empty plate. Luffy was about to dig into the meat, but his hand was quickly slapped away. Hey, what's the big idea? He yelled at Sakura. The kunoichi only narrowed her eyes at the captain. You have to wait, she said huffily. I swear, your eating habits are just as bad as Naruto's, but at least he has enough sensibility to wait for others to come to the table. Right, Naruto? She added with a menacing growl, as she tightened his captive arm behind him. The poor blonde nin yelped. In truth, he was just about as eager as Luffy to just grab one of those giant pieces of deliciously cooked meat by a drop of a hat. That's right, Sakura-chan, he added, with drool and tears so evident that his words betrayed him. But I'm the captain, and I should eat when I want to, he whined. Sakura's glare only intensified, even making the rubber man cringe a little. All right, I'll be good, he surrendered, before muttering. Gee, you're almost as mean as Nami. Soon enough, the rest of the group joined the table, except for Sasuke. Sakura still had Naruto's arm in a tight grip, as she kept a watchful eye on the cabin door. Everyone else started to eat. Plentiful amounts of rice and fish were scooped onto the plates. The empty bowls were now nearly overflowing with Sanji's soup, and Luffy snuck in a mountain load of meat under Sakura's nose as Naruto looked on helplessly. Please, Sakura-chan, could you let go of me now, please? He whispered tearfully. I'm really hungry. Sakura's head slowly turned to the poor boy, with a glare so dangerous, you might wonder if she might contain a demon inside of her as well. Naruto flinched. You won't be eating anything until Sasuke-kun gets here, she seethed. Oh, squeaked Chopper. Both eyes shot their glance on the little reindeer. Sakura-san, if you're wondering about that other boy, I just gave him some medicine, so he's resting in the infirmary right now, he said. Sakura relaxed her grip on Naruto, as he sighed with relief. He silently mouthed the words, thank you, to Chopper. Sakura quickly leaned forward from where she sat, towards the little reindeer. How is he? How long will it be for the medicine to take effect? She asked, demanding an answer. Chopper only smiled. Not long. As a matter of fact, he should be up right about. Bang. Hello everyone. At that moment, everybody stopped what they were doing to take a moment to stare at the most unnatural occurrence ever to lay their eyes upon. Sasuke stood at the doorway with a smile so big and cute that every female would glomp him until he can no longer breathe. Oh, Sasuke-kun, sighed Sakura dreamily. She couldn't believe her eyes as she ran up to meet him. Hi Sakura, said Sasuke, his smile growing bigger. Sakura's heart skipped a beat, because he usually never greeted her like that. Naruto was at a loss for words. The others just looked on at the scene unfolding before them. Sasuke? She said with a blush forming on her cheeks. What is it, Sakura? He replied. His eyes were just so bright and cheerful, Sakura couldn't help but notice how adorable he looked. She rather pinch his cheeks instead than kiss him. Since you're so happy now, does that mean you will forget about your revenge and go on a date with me? She asked hopefully. There was a pause as the whole crew, including Naruto and Kakashi, with each a book in hand, waited intently for his answer. Could Sasuke have finally changed his ways for the better? Suddenly, Sasuke gave the most heartiest laugh. He is so happy. No way, he said, his voice cheerful and merry. Everyone fell over their chairs in shock as Sakura felt her heart being crushed under a giant boulder. Kakashi, who sat at the head of the table, shook his head in dismay. Still the same old Sasuke, but with a cute happy face, he said with a merrily crinkled eye. Nami shook her head as well. Poor Sakura-san, she murmured. She needs to learn that love isn't everything. Nico merely nodded in agreement, before sipping her glass of water. The rest went back to eating, except Naruto, who glared daggers at the cheerful Uchiha, for hurting Sakura. He was about to stand up and give him a piece of his mind, only to be pulled down by the collar by Kakashi. There will be no fighting at the dinner table, he said casually. Naruto's eyes narrowed at his teacher, before turning away with a pout. Kakashi looked up to the smiling Uchiha still standing by the door with a shattered Sakura. Sasuke, glad to have you back. Please, join us. Sasuke grinned. Why thank you, sensei, he said as he marched jovially towards an empty seat, leaving Sakura alone and broken-hearted. Chopper was saddened to see Sakura in low spirits. I'm sorry Sakura-san, he said sadly to her from where he sat. My seasick medicine has a strange cheerfulness side effect. Sure, he may seem extremely happy, but in the inside he's still somewhat himself. Sakura gave a small smile to Chopper. It's okay, she said with a disappointed sigh, which was then quickly replaced with a look of determination. One day, I'll change his mind. Chopper sighed with a worried look. I don't think she gets it, he said tearfully. Sasuke seated himself at the end of the table between Kakashi and Zoro, and he gave the swordsman his most brightest smile. Well, hello. Nice to see you again, said Sasuke to Zoro. Zoro quirked an eyebrow at the boy next to him, before shifting his seat a small distance away from the cheerful Uchiha. Hey Naruto, you better eat now, or Luffy-san will eat everything in sight, said Sasuke with a sing-song voice to the boy sitting across from him. Naruto's eyes widened in realization, before quickly grabbing the last 2 pieces of meat that Luffy was about to grab. Mine, growled the kitsune before gnarling a chunk off of it. Sakura went back to her seat next between Nami and Naruto, who devoured anything he served himself. Sakura sighed, she didn't feel much like eating. Kakashi quickly took note of this as he placed his book aside. Sakura, I suggest you eat something, he said. You're going to need your strength for training. Yay! Training. Sasuke suddenly burst out with a mouth full of rice. Zoro shifted his seat further away from him. I'm on a diet, she said flatly. That's no excuse, said Kakashi. Sakura turned to glare at him. Oh yeah? Well, I don't see you eating anything, Kakashi sends. She stopped when she noticed that Kakashi was pointing at his own plate. She saw several bones already stripped off of their meat, and empty lobster shells. Usopp inwardly cursed. Damn. Missed it again, he thought as he shoved down a forkful of rice in his mouth. Chopper stood up from the table. Yeah, Sakura-san, diets are very unhealthy, especially for people in your line of business, said Chopper as a matter of factly. Sakura crossed her arms, turned her head to the side. I don't care, she said huffily. Just then, a tall glass filled with strawberry sorbet and garnished with little strawberries was placed in front of her. Huh? Sakura looked at it curiously. This is a special dessert that I made especially for you, crooned Sanji, as he placed a small spoon into the dessert. Sakura was intrigued by the treat as she licked her lips, but then quickly turned away. I said I'm on a diet, she huffed. Sanji only smiled. But you didn't hear the rest, he said. You see? This is my famous strawberry sorbet made especially for women on diets. It's low in fat, and the calories burn off easy, giving you lots of energy. Take the beautiful Nami-san for example. My desserts keep her looking exquisitely voluptuous. Nami chuckled as she blushed at the compliment. Oh Sanji, you always say the sweetest things, she said, her voice rich with seduction. Really? Squealed the overexcited Sanji with delight. Smack. No. Now stop annoying our guest. Sakura looked back at the strawberry sorbet, with a look of longing. Well, since you put it that way, said Sakura, bringing the dessert closer to her, and scooping up a bit of it with the spoon. I think I'll have just a taste, it looks good anyway. She placed the spoon with the sweet contents in her mouth, and instantly her eyes sparkled. It's great. Ah, I knew you'd love it, cried Sanji happily, with his hands clamped over his chest. Sakura-san, you shouldn't let boys get to you like that, said Nami. All you'll gain from this cat and mouse game will be nothing but more shame and humiliation, so do yourself a favor. Sakura was wolfing down some of the sorbet as she took Nami's words into thought. Yeah. You know what, Nami-nisan, you're right, she said before eating more of the sorbet. Maybe I should just forget about Sasuke. She then turned to the ex-love of her life, and gave him a good yelling with the help of her dessert spoon. You hear that, Sasuke? From now on, I'm not going to be your love slave any longer. So you can just take that stupid attitude and shove it up your ass. Sasuke only smiled wider at the kunoichi's declaration. He now seemed more cheerful than ever. Yay. Good for you, Sakura, now training with you will be much easier. I love rice, he said before eating another mouthful. Kakashi leaned slightly towards Sanji. You weren't telling the truth about that sorbet, weren't you? He whispered. Sanji made an evil chuckle. You're right, that sorbet is actually filled with fatty protein and lots of calories. Both of them made that little giggle that comes out when they read Icha Icha. Sakura looked up at the two men curiously, with bits of pink sorbet covering her little mouth. Did you say something, sensei? Both looked away from her in unison. Nope. Oh, okay. Sanji-san? Asked Sakura innocently. Yes, my little blossom? Crooned Sanji. Can I have another one? Why certainly. Kakashi ordered his team to be up and on the deck of the merry-go at 5 o'clock, and Sasuke were already waiting there for more than an hour. They were both hunched over due to the fact that they weren't used to sleeping on hammocks, and their eyes were bloodshot from the lack of sleep. I can't sleep with those idiots, said Sasuke, looking out into the morning mist hovering above the ocean with Naruto, who was leaning headfirst onto the edge of the deck, sleeping. Sasuke growled at his lack of attention. The cheerful side effect of the seasick pill faded when he was trying to sleep. Sleeping along with the guys of the Straw Hat crew was a nightmare. Luffy and Zoro with their thundering snores. Sanji with his love mutterings of Nami-san this, Nami-san that. Oh, Nico Robin. Usopp saying out loud between snores, I'm the greatest Sead. Ven. Tourer. Sasuke rubbed his hands over his face. He's going to kill Kakashi-sensei for putting them into this situation. Poof. Yo. He raised his hand in a wave. You're late, muttered Naruto sleepily. Kakashi scratched the back of his spiky silver hair, with the usual sheepish crinkle in his eye. Ha ha. Sorry about that, you see, I was dreaming that I got lost on the way of life, and… Save it, sensei, we know you just overslept, grumbled Sasuke. Kakashi just chuckled and noticed his team for the first time. Naruto, sleeping. Sasuke, moody. Sakura. Kakashi looked at them, realizing that a member of their team was missing. Where is Sakura? Sasuke looked around. He just finally noticed that Sakura wasn't with them. Naruto was still sleeping like a log. Here I am, sensei. The two of them looked up to see a very, very scary sight. Sakura was the size of the pudgiest pink ball of fat you have ever seen. Ohayo everyone, she said cheerily. Oh my god, muttered Sasuke. His eyes widened so much, like he was trying to fit her whole image into his view. Kakashi, being the leader, tried to say something. Sakura, he struggled to say. What happened to you? Flashback. You weren't telling the truth about that sorbet, weren't you? He whispered. Sanji made an evil chuckle. You're right, that sorbet is actually filled with protein and lots of calories. End flashback. He just remembered that she consumed at least 10 sorbets last night, and maybe a few more before she went to bed. This is not going to be good for training, he thought sadly. What are you talking about, sensei? She gave an adorable chubby pout. I feel just fine. Kakashi hoped that better be the cheerful side effect of that seasick pill. Chopper probably slipped it into one of her sorbets after overhearing him and Sanji's little quip. HMPH, sneaky little guy. He spent one day with her and he already knew how fragile she is about her weight. Sakura was starting to become a little impatient. What are you two staring at? Shouldn't we be training? She said with a little frustrated bounce that made her jiggle, and making the boat rock a bit, causing Naruto to instantly rouse from his nap. What's going on? Are we being attacked? He said quickly, rubbing his eyes, as they slowly started to focus onto the pink blimp standing before him. Why is there a whale on the MMPH? Sasuke clamped his hand over Naruto's mouth. Shut up, he vehemently whispered. Kakashi stepped in. Well, let's train now. We'll start with a warm-up. All three lined up. Hi, sensei. All right, now drop and give me 201 hand push-ups, he ordered. Naruto made an arrogant look at Sasuke. Ha! Watch me finish before Sasuke Teme, bragged Naruto. You wish, said Sasuke, as he dropped down and started counting, with Naruto following suit. Unfortunately for Kakashi, who couldn't take his eye off his bulbous female student. Instead of the usual up and down motion of a simple push-up, she was practically rolling, and she seemed to be having fun. Sakura? He began cautiously. She pushed herself with one arm to roll up. Yes, sensei? She asked innocently. And maybe you should take a break, he suggested sincerely. Not right now, sensei, I'm on a roll, my point exactly. Kakashi tried to figure out something to say without making her feel bad or hurt. He was going to kill Sanji for letting her eat all that dessert. Well, then why don't you help me with something? Like what? With my own training, of course. You can sit on my back, while I do about, say, 500 push-ups. Sakura looked confused. Why do you need training? Well, your sensei needs to be a lot stronger in order to protect you and your teammates, and I could use the extra weeg. Huh? Just get on my back. 2 hours later, Kakashi stumbled into the infirmary to find Tony Chopper deep into his medical books. It wasn't until the Junin fell face flat on the floor that he got the little doctor's attention. Kakashi-san. What happened to you? The little reindeer panicked, as he rushed around the room gathering a blanket, a pillow, and a thermometer. "My back," he muttered, his voice etched with pain. "It's killing me." Chopper did a quick examination on his back. "You ruptured several discs in several places on your spine. You should be paralyzed. How did you do this?" Kakashi groaned. "Sakura. So fat. He passed out on the floor." Chopper shook his head in dismay. "And just when I finished the medicine, breakfast in the cabin." "Wahahaha." Sakura wailed as she shoveled some of Sanji's deliciously made breakfast into her mouth. Most of the crew, including Sasuke and Naruto, only stared in amazement at the giant pink whale splurging off the entire table. "I'm so ashamed of myself," she sniffled. "At first it was just my big forehead that I didn't like, but now it's all me." She shoved 5 sausages in her mouth and swallowed without chewing. "Eno Pig's going to have the time of her life when she sees me like this, only I'm going to have Pig at the end of my name now." She whined between sobs. "I miss Forehead Girl." Naruto decided to be brave, to try and calm her down a bit. "Ah, come on Sakura-chan. You don't look that bad," he interjected. Sakura glared at him with her piggy green eyes. His plan backfired. "Shut up, Naruto. I'm 300 pounds overweight and it's all thanks to you." She pointed her fork angrily at Sanji. The handsome chef cringed behind Naruto. "If you hadn't lied about that yummy nummy strawberry sorbet, Kakashi-sensei would still be walking right now." Luffy stood up. "Hey," he shouted. "It's not Sanji's fault that you're fat. It was you who kept asking for more, Porky." The honest captain was instantly tackled down by Usopp, Zoro, Sanji, Naruto and Sasuke. "Shut up, you moron." Nami scoffed at Luffy as he tried getting out of the pile. "Like you're any different. If you had your hands on that sorbet, you would have eaten 10 times as much than her," she scolded. She turned to her splurging teary-eyed Kunoichi friend, and spoke to her in a most sincere voice. Now, Sakura-chan. You shouldn't worry too much about your image." Sakura whimpered to herself as she grabbed a tangerine sorbet from Little Hooved hands. "But if you want to, why don't you join me in a jog around the ship?" Quickly, all the men shook their heads at the notion. Seeing this, Nami suddenly realized her mistake. Wooden ship plus fat-ass Sakura jogging equals doom. Oh right, or you could just eat more." Nami sighed sadly as she watched Sakura chug down the last of the sorbet with the help of her spoon, making piggy-like slurping sounds. When she finished, she put down the empty glass on the table. "Boo rrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr pile of pirates and shinobi lost its balance over Luffy. Nami fell over on her backside, as Sanji went to go protect his cooking from falling. After the small quake was over, there was a cry of, "My back," that could be heard from the infirmary. Sasuke was turning green again. "I think I'm gonna." He quickly pulled himself out of the man pile and headed straight for the door. Once he was outside, everyone in the cabin could hear him retch out loud. Naruto scoffed. "Wimp." "Hey everyone, look," cried Chopper. Everyone's head turned to look at the fat Sakura, only to see that she is no longer. The Kunoichi put her head down on the table as she continued crying. "Why me?" Sanji gasped excitedly, seeing that the pretty young Blossom was back to her slim cute self once again. Sakura swung. "Look at you. You're so pretty." He bought out a flower-bordered design full-length mirror and placed it in front of her, but she didn't look up to see. "Be quiet, Sanji. It's not like your compliments are going to make me lose weight." Nami leaned and patted Sakura on the back. "Oh, I think you're wrong about that," she said. Sakura looked up, confused. "Nami-Nisan, what are you She caught sight of herself in the mirror Sanji was holding. Naruto, Usopp, and Chopper eagerly watched her surprised face turn into a bright smile. "I'm skinny again." She shrieked happily as she jumped onto the table and checked out her own slim figure in the mirror. Naruto jumped with enthusiasm. "Wow, Sakura-chan. You look great," he shouted. Luffy immediately started to devour Sakura's leftovers. "Yeah, delicious," he said before inhaling a large plate of scrambled eggs. Nami made a relieved sigh, now that things are slightly back to the way they were. Well, time to get back to work, she said, heading back to her room, map room. Zoro yawned. Great. She's back to normal, I'm going to take a nap, he muttered. Sakura gasped as she lightly hit her fist over her palm. She had an idea. I'm going to go help Kakashi-sensei. Chopper, how is he? Chopper frowned. Reading, he said with a grimace. All right. Later guys. She waved. Before jumping off the table and making her way to the infirmary, she stopped midway. Oh, almost forgot. She came back and scooped up the shocked Chopper into her arms, and kissed his fuzzy cheek. Thank you, so much. Sakura gave him another squeeze before setting him back down on the floor. She patted his pink hat and went on her way. Chopper stood there frozen and blushing. Naruto stared with his jaw dropped at the little reindeer. Usopp nudged him. See, he does like her, said the sharpshooter coolly. Chopper instantly came back to his senses. I do not. You do too. Do not. Do too. Chopper jumped onto the table, and grabbed the last sausage from a plate, and brandished it at Usopp like a sword. Don't make me throw this sausage at you, fear the sausage. But his weapon was soon taken and devoured by Luffy. Usopp gave a triumphant grin. Huh? What sausage? He said. Chopper quickly looked for something else, then he grabbed 2 butter knives. He tossed the other to Usopp. Getting the idea, Usopp turned into fencing stance. Prepare to taste buttered steel, blue nose, huh? Amidst the clashing of butter knives, Naruto's stomach made a loud rumbling sound. He pouted, seeing that all the food on the table was nearly gone. I want sausage, he whined. Order up. Sanji placed a giant plate of freshly cooked smoking sausages on the table. Naruto squealed with delight. And began to eat. Sanji, who started to get annoyed with Chopper and Usopp's little knife fight, shouted angrily from his cooking stove. Oi! Put those damn knives down. Those are for buttering, not stabbing. Meanwhile, Blearg. Sasuke spewed the last of his stomach acid into the blue ocean and wiped his mouth. He heard a rumbling snore not too far from him. He turned to find Zoro lying against the wall of the cabin sleeping soundly. Sasuke gritted his teeth remembering the torture he had to go through during the night. He stepped away from the deck, and walked over to the swordsman's sleeping form. The Uchiha's eyes flashed dangerously, as ideas began to run through his head. Evil ideas. Bang! Unfortunately, before he could put any of those ideas into action, 2 individuals were literally kicked out of the cabin, and both landed with a very harsh thud. The door closed with a loud slam. Ow! Sanji didn't have to be so mean, whined Chopper, rubbing his little rear, which had a large boot mark on it. A fancy boot mark. You got that right, said Usopp, who had the same situation as Chopper. I bet you he was trying to read those new books he got from the ninja village, he said, then he gave a mischievous smirk. I wonder what they contain within. Chopper frowned at the thought. Just seeing the title of that book would make anyone know full well of what's contained within. I wouldn't know, said Chopper finally, but still. Both groaned in pain, until Chopper noticed Sasuke watching them. The little reindeer knowingly smiled, and waved at him. Usopp noticed as well, and gave him the same greeting. Ohayu Sasuke-san. Did you sleep well? The boy's eyes narrowed dangerously at the two, causing their cheerful greeting to fade. No, I didn't. And with that, he walked away. Usopp made a face. Looks like someone forgot to take their happy pills. Boom. What's with all the loud noises today? Luffy, Sanji, and Naruto rushed out onto the deck. Zoro remained sleeping. It wasn't too long when Sasuke came back into the picture. He had a look of panic on his face. There's a large black ship heading our way, and they're shooting large exploding balls at us, he shouted. Usopp, Naruto and Sanji couldn't help but snicker at Sasuke's choice of words. What? Naruto took a breath before asking. What color were they? Sanji and Usopp doubled over with laughter. I don't know. Blah, shut up, Naruto. All 3 were on the floor laughing. Chopper and Luffy looked at each other, confused. They shrugged, and joined in on the laughing game. Sasuke was getting pissed. Grr. Doesn't it occur to you idiots that we are being attacked? Nami bursted out of her room. We're being attacked? Then Nico, Robin. We're being attacked? Then Sakura. We're being attacked? Then Kakashi with a thumbs up. My back's better. Hooah! A fiery cannonball missed them by an inch, landing into the water, and erupting with a large splash, causing everyone to get wet. Zoro remained asleep. Sasuke, sopping wet and infuriated, stomped over to Zoro, and grabbed him by the shirt. "Wake up, you moron. You're too late." Suddenly a wave of dark mist covered the entire atmosphere, and a downpour of cold salty rain. The black ship that was attacking them suddenly appeared before them out of nowhere, blocking their way. Naruto, Usopp, and Chopper paled at the sight of the ship. "Ghosts," whimpered Naruto with dread. The three of them huddled together in shaky fear. Sasuke mutely unhanded Zoro, letting him fall and hit his head on the floor. Ow! He finally awoke. Zoro grabbed Sasuke by the collar of his blue shirt. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he shouted angrily at the boy, but Sasuke didn't listen, he just pointed behind Zoro. "What are you?" He turned to see a large black ship with a glowing white skull on its bow. The entire vessel was nearly covered in seaweed and barnacles. The black sails were torn and shredded, and the body of the ship had large gaping holes that could sink a regular ship in a minute, only this was no regular ship. "It's a ghost ship," said Sakura, remembering that the Ghost Island was not only the ghostly thing they were going to meet on this mission. According to the scroll they received from the Hokage, the Ghost Island is also responsible for sightings of ghost ships terrorizing the sea. Apparently she forgot to tell Naruto. The eyes of the skull on the mast glowed red, as an eerie voice emanated from the ship itself. "I know what you seek, I know what you desire, I know what you fear." The three scaredy cats cried in each other's arms. Nami stomped up to the ghost ship. "What do you want from us?" she yelled. Bang! A massive cannonball shot out of the ship, and made a direct hit on their frequently repaired mast. With all the steel and extra wood holding the mast together, it snapped and broke off. "Vente fleur," called Nico Robin. Within an instant, 20 arms grew out of the mast to prevent it from falling on top of the crew. Kakashi called out to Nami. "Don't you have any weapons on this ship?" "We got one cannon, and one person who knows how to use it," she said. "Usopp, go get the cannon," ordered Nami. The long-nosed wannabe adventurer bundled up his courage and saluted. "Aye aye, Sanji, Chopper, go down to the bridge and see if you can move the ship." "Aye aye." "Hi, Nami Swan, Nico Robin, how long can you hold that mast?" "Long enough," she said coolly. "All right, and the rest of us, we're getting on that ship." Naruto immediately was against the idea. "What, are you crazy? Why do I have to go?" he panicked. Nami grinned as she greedily rubbed her hands together. "There might be some valuables on that ship, and I need the extra muscle to move it all on the merry-go." Zoro gave her an angry stare. "You've got to be kidding," he retorted. Kakashi didn't seem too pleased with the idea either. "Nami-san, my team and I are on a mission to find the Ghost Island, not stealing treasure from other ships," he said warily. "We're low on rations," said Nami, eyeing Sakura. "On second thought, let's go steal some treasure." After about 10 minutes, Naruto was the last to get on the ghostly vessel. Still hating the idea of being on a ghost ship, he slowly walked to where the others were gathered for instruction. "Don't shoot until I give you the signal," Nami called out to Usopp back at the merry-go. He waved back, showing that he understood. Sanji and Chopper in his strong human form rushed out on the deck. "Nami Swan, the helm moves, but the ship won't budge." "The ship is mine now. You are all mine now. Your lives will end here." Naruto could no longer hold it down. "No, I'm too young to die. I haven't become Hokage yet." Sasuke bonked him on the head. "Get a grip, Dobi, we're not going to die," he said calmly. Nami intervened. "Okay everyone, Zoro and Kakashi will search around the bottom of the ship. Sakura and I will look in the captain's headquarters, and you three look around here." "Got it, great, let's go." Everyone was about to disperse except for Naruto, who didn't move from his spot. His hands were clutching his stomach. "Wait, hold on," he grunted. He looked as if he were in pain. Luffy went up to him. "Oi, Naruto, are you okay?" Sakura quickly ran over to him. "Naruto, what's wrong?" "No, Sakura-chan, just stay where you are. I just need a minute to." Nami looked confused. "What's going on?" she asked. Zoro gave an unimpressed look. He's too afraid, he said. Kakashi was becoming impatient. Naruto, we don't have time for this. Put your fears aside for now and move it, scaredy cat. Sasuke shoved him from behind. FFFFFAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAA My only weakness. How did you know? Naruto made a perplexed face. Quote. I didn't. Hoot. Gya. I'm fading. 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 Gone. The ghost ship vanished instantly, leaving everyone on its vessel standing on nothing. Ah. Splaash. The rain stopped falling, and the skies instantly turned back to its normal blue. Usopp looked over the deck to see if his shipmates were okay. Oi, where is everyone? He called out. Nami Swan. A head of orange-colored hair popped out from the water. Nami Swan, you're okay. I'm so glad, shouted Sanji, the hearts on his eyes beating rapidly. Nami wept a little. All that treasure, gone, she cried. Soon after, Kakashi's silver head, followed by Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto, coughing. This water tastes nasty, he whined. Sakura looked around to see if anyone was missing. Hey, where's Luffy? Suddenly, two heads came up from the water. Zoro with Luffy in tow. Luffy had the biggest smile on his face. Wow, that was cool, Naruto. You just destroyed an entire ghost ship, said the captain of the Straw Hats enthusiastically. Nami, however, was not impressed. I hate you. Well, that's our #1 surprising ninja for you, said Kakashi, hitting the side of his head to let out any water from his ears. Naruto looked perplexed. I did, he said, then realization hit him. Yeah, I did. I destroyed an entire ghost ship. Beat that, Sasuke. But the Uchiha didn't say anything. As a matter of fact, he didn't even look like he was listening. Sakura's eyes widened in shock when she noticed that his face suddenly turned green. I'm gonna ULP. He's gonna hurl, screamed Sakura. Zoro and Luffy took initiative. Quick, back to the ship. The end. Now we will see you in the next video.